you are sick, you need to fast. The only thing that will heal you is you, and you have to get out of the way.
Fasting is not optional if you want to be healthy. It's not optional. You have to do it.
Water fasting really helped me a lot during my journey, and I healed so much with water fasting. I would not recommend for people who have a normal American diet to just jump into a fast.
To say that you shouldn't fast coming off of a standard American diet, I actually find the exact opposite.
I know somebody who did the same. They ended up in hospital and nearly died.
I would like to throw in a wrench to this and challenge both of you guys just a little bit. When do you think is the time that your body is detoxifying the most?
When you do a cold plunge or when you do like a very cold shower in the morning, you get like an adrenaline rush and then you feel incredibly good, but it's not necessarily amazing for your body.
I was in North Bali doing an extended fast when I had this realization, how much of a parasite I've been to my own mother, and thank God for that, because I changed immediately.
Welcome. Today we're going to talk about fasting for healing, for performance. And I'm going to start with asking a bit of the panel a few questions about who should fast, how to fast, because I know you have a lot of similarities, but maybe also different opinions on some things. And that's why I'm excited to have you in the panel. So today we have Laetitia at RawJuicyFit on Instagram. And well, first, I really wanted to have a feminine presence also today, because sometimes in the world of fasting, it can be like things should be this way and this way, and also men and women, just in terms of physical attributes, they're different people, right? So it was important for me to have a woman, and Laetitia, she's so you're mainly on a high-raw diet, and we'll get more into that, but you're also really interested in fasting, and you have quite a flexible approach, I would say, which I enjoy. Then we have Jeff Juices here. Jeff Juices, huge influencer in the movement, and also amazing personal story with fasting, and now he's helping other people with fasting. You'll tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you're more from the maybe Lauren Lockman school of the resting a lot when we fast and keeping it super pure. Let's put it this way. And also Tyler Tolman. So Tyler, you have a fasting hub here in Nusa Dua. Yeah, so a beautiful fasting hub. You've been helping thousands of people also with fasting. We did a podcast recently talking about helping people with really strong conditions. And I know in your fasting hub also, people go for a long time, but at the same time, there's that like maybe more fun part of having the saunas and the massages and the cold bath and also the medical approach. So we'll talk also about how to do it safely. So amazing panel. And I would like to start with each of you maybe doing a 2-3 minute presentation about you and your work, especially in the domain of nutrition, health, and fasting specifically. Ladies first.
Yes. Thank you so much that I can be here today and share my approach to fasting and health. So I was sick, or I became sick when I was 13, and so I was forced to change my diet. And I was trying medical medium, and I was trying different diets, and I went into juice fasting, like I think all of us. And yeah, water fasting really helped me a lot during my journey, and I healed so much with water fasting. I did around 10 water fasts in my life so far, around between 7 and 14 days. My longest one was 17 days so far. And yeah, for me, it was fasting just really is so transformative if it's done right, in my opinion. And if it's done also in tune with your body, and if you just really, if you're connected with yourself, and Is there anything else I should share right now?
Amazing. I think that's great. And then more of you will be revealed as we go through the talk.
Thank you, Laetitia.
Thank you. Round of applause for Laetitia, please.
So much like a lot of you guys, I got sick, discovered raw food and juicing. Those were the first two things. And then in the hospital one day when all of these epiphanies started to be downloaded, and instead of going this way, which was death, I went this way. And part of that journey was fasting, but because there's not so much prevalent information on fasting that's really accessible, I was pretty scared of it for the first like 4 years of my raw food and juicing journey. And then when I basically healed about 60% of my chronic digestive issues and migraines and fatigue, bloating, all these things, I just hit a wall. Like so many people in the raw community that I see, that I meet, you hit a wall because eating is only takes you so far. And so that's when I really started to learn more about fasting. And I was also super skinny, like really, really skinny. I think I was 120 pounds. I'm 6'2". It's about 40 pounds lighter than I am now. I could not gain weight. I was eating 4,000, 5,000 calories a day, unable to gain weight. And so I went down to Costa Rica, did my first long fast with Lauren Lockman at Tanglewood, and it was 19 days, completely changed my life. I was so chronically sick before this. I was a drug addict, junk food addict, and within almost 3 weeks of fasting, I went from being basically dead and not really thriving at all to just having a full rebirth, just completely reborn in almost every way, like loss of anger, loss of toxicity, just my skin, my brain, cognition, everything about me just completely changed. And like a lot of people, I said that I'm going to share this with the world right after the fast. A lot of people that fast are like, I'm going to start teaching fasting now. A lot of people go back to their own lives and they don't do that. But I was like, I have to share this. And so I did. And so the past, 5-6 years, I've been continuing my fasting journey, which I do a 1 to 2 longer fast, 2 to 3 weeks every year. And I also do fast coaching. I've just recently got into the fasting coaching. In the past 2.5 years, I've done 2 fasting retreats so far. I'll have my 3rd one in October. And it's so dramatic what you see people go through in just such a short amount of time. So that's my story. Thank you.
It's awesome. Okay. I also, around the age of 13, was born and raised in the United States, Washington State. Traditional American, going to school, eating the hot dogs, hamburgers, drinking the school milk for my calcium. And I was raised by a single mother of 3. Didn't really know much about my father, but my father would pop in for about a week once a year. And he was just this glowing ball of energy and vitality. And so it was almost like a Santa Claus would come into my life for a week and just like, wow. And I didn't know my father because he had actually left just before I was born, off on this epic journey. So throughout my life, I had an older brother, a couple of years older than me, started smoking, started doing drugs, this sort of thing, drinking. So I got into that around 11 years old. So I'm 11 years old, drinking alcohol, picking up cigarettes to be cool like my older brother. My mother caught me outside, out back, smoking a cigarette, and I was so excited. It was like one of my first cigarettes. And she caught me doing that. It's like, oh, damn. She never wanted me to go and stay with my father because she believed I'd never come back, which wasn't true. But she said, you need to have a positive male influence in your life. So she decided that summer I would go and stay with my father for 3 months. So I went out to Missouri. My father had a 200-acre farm. He grew all his own food. There were 7 little ponds. He had multiple buildings there. And he had been on this massive journey leaving the church because he was on this whole, fully enrolled in the Mormon church, actually. And he decided, you know what? All the Bible says, if you really want to know, fast and pray. So my father actually went out on top of a mountain for 40 days and 40 nights and did a water fast and had some major insights. And then he did that every year, 5 years in a row, 40 days. And he said it wasn't until about his 3rd 40-day water fast that he actually cracked through and realized so many things and started doing it correctly. I'm probably going to go off way too long here. But he ended up writing a book because he started seeing ascended masters. They actually came to him physically in the flesh on top of these mountains, had some major experiences, and learned so much that he was downloading. This is why every time I would see him and he'd come around, he was bouncing. They called him Tigger Tolman because he didn't walk. He bounced everywhere he went, just with so much energy, a lot like raw food community, people drinking juices, people that are genuinely healthy and just have this feeling of life and happiness. So I had this dichotomy of regular American lifestyle and then my dad. And for the first time ever, I got to spend 3 months with him. And after the first month, without going into too much story there, all these people arrived and I had no idea what was going on because they're getting out of the car, some of them majorly overweight, major chronic disease. And they were there to do an extended fast. And so I got to observe my father when I was 13 years of age, long time ago now. I have grandkids, by the way. I got to observe him facilitating what he called the words of life and education and walking every morning and sun gazing and doing all these things that were very weird 30 plus odd years ago or whatever it was. So that changed my life, all about fasting. And I did that every year thereafter, going and being a part of this fasting experience. A lot of people water fasting, a lot of people on juices, depending on what was going on. And I think I'll stop because that's probably like 10 minutes or something.
Yeah, thank you. And
Great story. Yeah.
amazing story. And now you have your fasting center, and we'll talk about it, obviously, through the questions and maybe the experience you've had. I'd like to open with who do you recommend fasting for? And what kind of fast for who?
I think fasting is a very advanced tool, and I think the people who really detoxing for a long time and having a very clean diet before can really benefit from a fast. But yeah, I would not recommend for people who have a normal American diet to just jump into a fast, because there are way too much toxins in our bodies these days. So we have to deal with heavy metals, viruses, bacteria, and so much more. And it's just an overload for the liver as well to push out so many toxins in the bloodstream, in my opinion. And that's why I really have a gentle approach to fasting. And I think we should have a very healthy diet, at least 2-3 years, to really, really benefit from a water fast. And I think there are also other cleanses we can do before. For example, we can eat only fruits and vegetables. We can go on low fat. We can go low salt. And we can really just see, okay, how much am I detoxing now when I just only eat fruits, for example? And then from there, you can also go into a juice cleanse, or you can do 3 juice days in a row. And then you can like go in a slow pace for your body to not like overwhelm it and to not to push the liver into like a harsh detox. And yeah, I think water fasting is definitely important for people with chronic illnesses and who also, like Jeff said, go to like reach a plateau and not moving forward. But I think I would, if you're really new to this lifestyle, I would really try to do fruits and vegetables first and low salt and just see how you feel, because this can also be very intense for a lot of people.
Thank you, Laetitia. And for the context of this conversation, I want to precise also, when we talk about fasting, obviously water fasting is probably going to be quite important in it. But for me, I'm open also to talking about juice fasting, about dry fasting, about different kind of fasting.
Yeah, there is a lot of misconception that juicing is fasting. And while it is a restriction of some sorts, it's not technically fast. Fasting is the absence of caloric intake and nutrition. And so doing a juice cleanse, anytime you improve your diet, you're going to get results. Your body's going to detoxify and cleanse a bit more. But, there's such a difference in actually pulling out all the nutrition completely and letting your body do what it was designed to do, which was to regenerate and detoxify at its own rate. And so what I find is that fasting is not optional if you want to be healthy. It's not optional. You have to do it, whether it be upkeep with the current contaminations that we have in our air and our society, and especially driving around on a scooter in Bali if you're not wearing a mask. That I find that everyone needs to fast, and it's okay at any stage for most people. There are definitely, Tyler can probably explain this a little bit deeper, who fasting might not be for in a certain time in their life. Like, type 1 diabetics, a little bit more difficult if you're missing your thyroid. But to say that you shouldn't fast coming off of a standard American diet, I actually find the exact opposite. I think fasting is just such a natural thing that our body knows exactly what to do when we are sick and when we are toxified. And when you go into a fast from a cheeseburger diet, you might not feel great, but that doesn't mean that it's bad. It doesn't mean that it's unsafe. It just means you might go through a lot of detoxification, which in my opinion is very important to go through these pains. I consider fasting and the detoxification symptoms to be our jail sentence, our punishment for the crimes that we have committed against ourselves. And going through this time of, maybe not feeling super good, and in some cases feeling miserable for weeks, it's essential, because when you come out of that, I have such deep experience with this. It is profound what you learn. Some of the most intelligent people that have some of the deepest knowledge, it comes from learning lessons and making mistakes and going through these hard times. Hard times create strong people. So when you go through a hard fast, you have these incredible breakthroughs, and it's going to teach you a lesson. If I eat potato chips every day for 30 years and then you spend 3 weeks detoxifying them out, you're laying in bed every day and it's a 10 out of 10 pain and it's the worst day of your life every day, you're probably never going to do that again. And so I've seen a lot of people smoke cigarettes, eat a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich at McDonald's, and then go straight into a 40-day fast. And they were totally fine. Better than people going from a raw vegan diet 10 years into a fast. And they were detoxifying super hard. So I don't find there to be any clear-cut answer that you shouldn't fast if you come from standard American diet or Cheetos or cheese puffs or, drug addicts. You're going to go through some pretty deep things. But I think that fasting in general is probably the most important tool, even in the raw food community, that everyone's missing, because it allows you to go from 0 to 100 in such a short amount of time, because it's the body's built-in genetic code to reclaim its perfect design. And when you disrupt that flow of energy, because there's all this gunk inside still, fasting just pushes it out. It squeezes it out. And so I just see such remarkable transformations from people that thought that they couldn't fast, and then even a 5-day fast sped up their healing journey by maybe 10 years. A 5-day fast can sometimes break people free when they've been on raw food or juice for decades, and it's just 5 days. Some people really respond to fasting. And again, some people don't. Some people, they experience these symptoms a lot deeper, but I find it to be just such a beautiful and valuable thing, yeah.
Thank you, Jeff. And also just for you, I want to share, it doesn't have to be always 1-1-1. So if at some point you feel called to answer, let's keep a flow of conversation. I'll just make sure roughly you guys speak about the same and that you can answer on each question. But for example, if you feel an impulse to reply directly, just take the mic.
Yeah, so in my opinion, a lot of people who go into raw food, they already experience symptoms, so they have already something going on. And that's why they also have a harder time fasting. So normally I see people who are very healthy, they can mostly handle a water fast way better because they don't have any symptoms before. And also when we basically, sorry, I just forgot what I wanted to say. Give me 1 minute.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Tyler, say a few words on this.
So I'll go back to Hippocrates, the father of medicine. He said to eat when you are sick is to feed your sickness. He's the original father of medicine, okay? Highly trained in Egypt from the Egyptian physicians. I think this is the greatest wisdom. We all know the phrase, let food be thy medicine, let thy medicine be thy food, but they took out the second part. He said, but to eat when you are sick is to eat your sickness, feed your sickness. They removed that. So it changes the whole quote. Because if you're sick, you're like, oh, let food be thy medicine. No.
It's not medicinal.
When you are sick, you need to fast. You need to stop and allow the body's internal physician to go to its work to heal you. The only thing that will heal you is you, and you have to get out of the way. All the things that you're doing and trying to put in are typically getting in the way of allowing the body to heal itself. So who should fast? Everyone. Because everyone's sick. Whether you recognize it or not, you can think you're the healthiest person ever until you come and sit down. I take some eye photos, start showing you your sclera in your lymphatic system where you have all the congestion, the toxicity, the encapsulations. Right? I can show you iridology. I can show you a bunch of different ways. We can look at your blood tests. But you'll find out that, oh, you know what? Everybody's sick in some way, mentally, emotionally, physically. And fasting is the way to go deep mentally, emotionally, and physically and get to know thyself and truly heal. That's the actual truth. Then it comes down to, okay, like you're saying, some people, if you put them straight into a water fast, could die. Okay? And like you said, you know somebody that went 40 days from an American lifestyle. I know somebody who did the same, and they ended up in hospital and nearly died. His name's Sanjeev, and it happened right here in Ubud. He left my center. He ate a large pizza before he started the fast because he wanted to get the calories in. And when he was leaving, 21 days on water, I was like, dude, you have to break the fast. You've got some serious stuff coming up. You need to break. He continued out of ego. He's like, my brother did a 40-day fast. I'm going to do a 40-day fast. And I was like, all right, well, sign the waivers. You got to go. And he came up here and he did a water fast. He ended up in hospital. And what happened to me during that is he went to hospital, lost his vision, lost his ability to walk, nearly died, and on social media, everybody said he had just been to Tyler Tolman's fasting retreat. Yeah. And I had all his friends and family from Melbourne posting, Tyler Tolman, he's killing people, see? And I was just like, holy shit, this is not good. I'm like, my whole reputation could have been ruined from this one experience. And luckily, I told them, you have to look at his B vitamins and his nutritional profile, and they gave him injections of certain nutrients that immediately brought him back so he could see. It took him 2 years to fully recover and walk again. Okay, so this really messed this guy up. But as soon as he came back, he did a post and said, Tyler Tolman specifically told me not to continue after 21 days. I didn't listen. I went 40 days. I didn't prep the way he said. I ate a large pizza the day before, and he posted it. And you can believe I screenshotted that straight away because about 2 hours later, he deleted it. But I have to say that, you know, it can be a dangerous thing. And I've been in this space for a very, very long time. So, yes, I believe everybody should fast. And I think that they should prep. My father had 3 methodologies. He said there's fast, faster, and fastest. If you want to heal, you can fast, you can go faster, or you can go the fastest way to detox. My father said fast is fruit. Because when you eat fruit, it moves fast through the system and it supports detoxification. So number 1, if you want to fast, eat fruit and it will clean you out. And if you have major reactions and symptoms and things going on, maybe back off a little bit. Have a little bit of steamed broccoli. Have a little bit of something else that will start to slow the detoxification pathways down a little bit to where you can handle it. Or if you can deal with the major detox of just eating fruit, just keep eating fruit, keep eating fruit, keep eating fruit. Faster is juice. So you can heal faster than fruit with juices only. The beautiful thing about juices is you can juice greens, you can juice vegetables, you can juice all kinds of things. Now I'm getting a massive amount of amino acids. I can maintain muscle, I can exercise, I can do things. I can drink like I do almost every day, 2 to 3 liters of juice. You could do that for an entire year. You can do that as long as it takes to heal, and you can heal just with that. That's the actual truth. And if you want to go the fastest is water fasting, and there are mechanisms of action that kick in that will not happen on a juice fast or a fruit diet. Now we're getting into ketosis. Now we're going really deep. Now we're experiencing autophagy. Now we have brain-derived nootropic factor and all these scientific things that we can talk about for days, and it's absolutely amazing. And look, I agree in some cases. There are some people, like, I've had people go in and they're like, oh my God, I got stage 4 cancer, tumors everywhere. What do I do? It's like, well, you're either going to die or you're going to go deep quick. And so in some of those cases, like, let's clear your digestive system out. Let's try to load you with as much nutrition as possible for a short period and get you into water fasting, because there are mechanisms of water fasting that stop cancer growth. And that's what we need to get to because of the case of where you're at. So in some cases, people can go pretty quickly, almost directly into a water fast. And on top of that, there's channels of elimination. If we said, hey, how many of you want to prevent disease? Raise your hand. Anyone want to prevent it? Do you know that in that actual prevent is the solution? The way we prevent disease is by opening up the vents. We have 4 vents of the body. Those vents remove acid and toxicity. Defecation, I poop. Urination, I pee. Perspiration, I sweat. And respiration, I breathe. So if I'm going to put somebody into a direct water fast, I need to ensure that I'm getting them defecation, urination, perspiration, respiration maximally to support all that toxicity coming out. So it's not just solely up to the liver to process all that toxicity, potentially causing major reactions or, even potentially harm.
Thank you for watching Raw Talks. Here at the Raw Temple, we are passionate about making healthy, delicious raw foods accessible to more people. As part of this mission, we have developed our own cleansers, products, and restaurants, and we now even have our own Raw Chef Academy. Here's the deal. You come to Bali for our retreats where you will learn professional techniques to create stunning, nutrient-dense dishes that nourish body and soul, many of which we serve in our own restaurants. While learning, you will experience the life-changing benefits of a raw, plant-based lifestyle, combined with daily yoga, meditation, and holistic practices. All of this here in Bali. You'll be immersed in Bali's magical energies, with temple ceremonies, rice terrace walks, and waterfall adventures. Sounds exciting? If yes, check the link in the description and join our next intake of the Raw Temple Academy. And now, enjoy the rest of this episode.
Totally agree. There's also some nuance that, like he said, there are cases where some people don't respond very well if they go directly into a fast. I completely agree with that. There are good, better, and best ways to fast, and each person is honestly probably responds differently too. You've probably seen this a lot, that genetic disposition allows people to also detoxify different than other people. And constitution, if you have a very strong constitution, your body will eliminate really well and fast. And what might take somebody 5 40-day fasts, another person with different genetics might respond the same amount of toxicity with 1 20-day fast. And so we could blanket statement and say that fasting is beneficial to all. But within that, because of the chemical revolution that has happened over the last 100 so years, people are so toxic now that we can't just go, hey, I'm going to do a 40-day water fast off of cheeseburgers without any information, without any guidance, and expect to be perfect. Are the odds good that you might be fine? Yeah, because this is a natural process, but there is a chance that you could hurt yourself, like Tyler has experienced. I've seen a couple people get injured from fasting too long and losing electrolytes. And a lot of it is because people don't know what's happening when they fast, because they're like, oh, I've heard fasting is good. I'm on day 15 now. What do I do? Oh, crap. I've got these symptoms going on. I don't know what this means. I'm going to keep going anyway. When if you knew about fasting, if you had supervised or been supervised or studied it for several years, if not several decades, then you would understand, like, these markers show I should probably stop. And so when I blanket statement that anyone can go into a fast off of standard American diet, I'm more or less just saying fasting is beneficial, and more times than not, the body does know what to do. And a lot of times people will just experience detoxification symptoms, which in some cases can be miserable, and it might be okay to slow it down a little bit, or to prep it with a juice cleanse, or do some prep work on a raw food diet, or just eating fruit. It's all going to be beneficial. And if you're doing a 20, 30-day fast and you have a bagel sitting in your gut during that process, or a steak that's putrefying in the lower quadrant of your small intestines, it's probably going to be a lot more painful than if you have papaya sitting there because you did 3 weeks of eating fruit before. And so there are a lot of things that you can do to prepare for a long fast. And there's also certain things that none of us can even explain, which is people smoke cigarettes and eat potato chips and they do fine on a fast. You know, because a lot of people have great genetics and there's certain things that we don't know about yet. But in general, I think that if you want to be healthy and you come from eating a standard American diet or processed food, and you want to be a raw foodist or mainly raw or high raw or vegan or whole foods or, you know, meat and fruit, doesn't matter. If you grew up for 20 years eating conventional food, in my opinion, I don't know if you guys will agree with me, but I think fasting isn't optional to clear that old stuff out. I see so many raw vegans through the past, you know, almost 7 years living in the tropics who just come through town and they're on this journey to find the best fruit and be a fruitarian and thrive, but they're not thriving and they're not focusing on fasting and they're 15 years on raw food. And I'm 9 years deep and I'm in superb health now. And it's only because I really surrendered to the process of God, which is if you're sick, stop eating. And the process is simple, but doing the work can be difficult to get through the days if you're detoxifying. So, yeah.
Now I also know what I wanted to say in the beginning. So I experienced a lot of people who do a fast or like also juice cleansing and then they binge after with like really bad foods like pizza and pasta. And I think that's very, very like bad if you do a fast and you cleanse yourself out and then you go to the bad food again. That's why I think it's so important that you really understand nutrition and you really understand healthy food on a deeper level, that you naturally crave after fast fruit, because otherwise you're just like, oh my God, I need calories and I need a pizza right now. And also when it comes to very long fasts, I think the adrenal glands are also so important because the adrenal glands are producing hormones and also stress and cortisol. And for women, they are especially important for the hormones and also if you want to like birth a child. So if you have strong adrenal glands, birth can be so good and like so easy. And that's why during a long fast, you can also really weaken these adrenal glands and you can weaken your hormones as well. And that's why I have an approach of rather do 3 times 10 days a water fast in a year than 30 days for women especially. And because weak adrenal glands can also lead to hair loss. And I experienced myself after a dry fast that I lost a lot of hair. And I also see it in other clients who do a water fasting, very long water fasting, they also lose a lot of hair. And also, just for me, it's all about getting the person better and not really like, okay, let's do a long fast and then, okay, that's the best you can do. So yeah, I like the balance and really go in tune with the body. And that's why I also don't really, do the measurements. I think you two like...
Vital signs.
Yeah.
Vital signs.
Yeah, I'm also not a big fan of that because I think, so for me, I want my clients to connect with themselves and to connect with what the body's telling them. And when you look only at signs and not really listen to your body, then you get a bit disconnected. And that's why, obviously, if you do 21 days, then you should do the signs. But I like to be more in tune with your body, to let you really get connected to yourself, because your body will tell you how long do you really want to go on a water fast and how long is it good for you, when do you want to eat again.
Yeah, I can share a little bit. It's great. And for a lot of people, sticking to that like 10 days or less would be really good. I like the intuitive nature as well. Tuning into yourself, following signs and symptoms. And of course, with longer fasts, I think there's some really clear reasons, why we should look at the daily vitals. I just wanted to get a little insights with hair loss. So we have this entire endocrine system that's functioning, for most people, very out of balance. And it's well known within some communities, with water fasting specifically, that it takes about 10 to 14 days to get what's called a full endocrine reset. So your adrenal glands, your reproductive glands, your thyroid, thymus, all of it actually completely resets itself, which can be a very, very good thing. Unfortunately, whenever you receive an endocrine reset, you'll lose hair. But then it will come back, as you probably know, even better. And I've had some recent experiences that are more intuitive, and it's just just an idea. Doesn't mean it's true. But first of all, if you do beyond 10 days, ladies, you will have an endocrine reset and you will end up losing some hair and you will freak out. You'll be brushing your hair and it's all coming out and you'll be in the shower. Oh my God, I'm deficient. Oh my God, I'm dying. No, this is just a natural process of an endocrine reset, and it's okay. Your endocrine system will be better for it if you break the fast properly and get the right nutrients in. But I have a feeling that our hair actually holds memory. And I actually have a feeling that there's a lot of traumatic memory that's held in our hair as well. And I actually had this experience with some clients and even my own wife recently that when they fasted and had their hair coming out, I just got this download like, that's the old memory leaving. And it was like the traumatic memory was like leaving physically, coming out of the head, dropping away, and then new hair growth. And I actually had this download when my wife was showing me all the new hair that was growing in. So take it as you will. This also happens when you have a baby. It's like you have a baby, and just after that, the hair starts to come out. And again, part of this download, call me crazy, is that I believe part of the experience of having the baby is passing on some of the negative karma, or even the baby taking some of this stuff away so that you can have a newfound energy, ladies, because I don't think anything in nature is all take. You have a baby, there's a lot of energy, a lot of things that women are dealing with having children that leave them a lot of times in a very weak or a very bad state. And I think there are a few things that Mother Nature builds in that has women actually much better afterwards. So that's a bit of speculation.
Yeah, that's important. I have a theory that, to me, when I think about it deeply, me and Laetitia have gone back and forth 20 times probably on adrenals and women fasting and if it's good or bad. And my theory is this, is that from my experience, I don't see too big of a difference in men and women when they fast. Doesn't really matter when you start, how long you go. Symptoms might happen, but the symptom isn't a problem. And I think that's something that Laetitia has followed pretty closely, medical medium approach, and listened to a lot of that information. But in my opinion, I wouldn't really take too much advice from the medical medium in terms of fasting, because I don't think he has that much experience with actual clinical fasting. Yes, exactly. He says not to fast and that fasting harms your adrenals. If you think about it logically, fasting only exposes and clears weaknesses. And so if you're a woman, and a lot of women here, if you start a fast and you lose your period, some people would say, oh, that's something's being harmed in my hormonal system. If you lose hair during your fast, that's bad. I think you're shedding. Your body conserves energy where it's not needed so it can detoxify. If part of that is not producing an egg because it's not important right now, the ability for you to have children right now during this fast isn't important. Your hair on top of your head isn't important. What is important is cleansing your liver. What is important is cleansing the plaque out of your arteries, out of your brain, clearing your skin. All these things are such more important for the survival of your personal self than to produce hair follicles or to produce an egg, and to have a period. And so I think all detoxification symptoms are perfect. As Bea would say, they're perfecta. But are they bad or are they harmful? I don't think they are. I think every detoxification symptom is necessary to go through if you're cleansing your body and if you want to get your body from where it currently is to a much cleaner, more optimal state. And the process of going through that hair loss or losing your period for 3 months or maybe losing muscle mass for 6 months. My first fast, I couldn't gain a single pound for 9 months after my first fast. And I was like, this is so beautiful because in like 5 years, I'm just going to look totally different. And I just really surrendered to the process. So I think to say that fasting harms your adrenal glands would be to really go against God or the creation of fasting. In my opinion, in no way does it do these things. It's just that medical medium Anthony Williams doesn't really understand what is happening when you fast, and that what happens during that process that might take 6 months for you to recover your hair could be necessary for you to go through to regrow stronger, more beautiful hair. And like Tyler said, to maybe lose some of these traumas or these memories that are in your hair follicles. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks for that. I think a lot of where adrenal damage or hormone disruption happens a lot of times. How many of you have heard of Mindy Peltz? So Mindy Peltz is kind of like a leading guru for women when it comes to fasting, but she's all based on intermittent fasting, not on extended fasting. And I think where the hormone disruption happens is women specifically have an issue when they do intermittent fasting and then eating. They tend to not eat enough calories. So for men, we go without food for long periods of time. Now it's time to eat. Give me the food. We have no problem eating. And in the process of eating, no matter what it is we're eating, we're getting enough calories, which is going to give us enough protein, which is going to give us enough nutrients for good, strong testosterone and all of our hormones. For women specifically, what I've noticed over the years, because I have a massive community of women that follow me, is they tend to have issues when it comes to hormones because they take on the intermittent fasting that I say, but then they don't eat enough calories within their eating window. So what's happening is they're fasting, eating a little bit, fasting, eating a little bit for months on end. And then when they're having their ovulation cycle and not getting enough quality protein, they can't make the hormones that they need that are necessary, and it completely messes up their entire adrenal axis, what's going on for their reproductive system. So this is a very intermittent fasting conversation when it comes to caloric intake. So Mindy Peltz would say all women around day 12 after your period, just before your menstrual cycle, you need to actually stop intermittent fasting and eat a lot more food so that you can ovulate. And then you also need to eat more food when you're having your period. So men and women aren't the same when it comes to hormones, and women who are still having their cycle need to be eating more during these windows specifically. And she says don't intermittent fast because I believe she doesn't believe women can eat enough. I would say you can still intermittent fast as long as you focus on getting enough calories in, or if you can't, go ahead and have breakfast, lunch, and dinner in order to satiate that for your menstrual cycle and for your period.
That's very interesting. Yeah, I think intermittent fasting is a big issue for women, actually. I think that as well. Because you tend to eat bigger portions, and also you tend to eat unhealthier, in my opinion. In general, like when you intermittent fasting. Yeah. So I'm a big fan of more grazing and have smaller meals, especially fruit meals, because when you don't starve yourself like for the whole day and then you only eat like, let's say you start eating at 1, then you tend to eat healthier. Then, because when you wait until 1 p.m. before you have your first meal, then you tend to eat more fatty things, and you eat just because your body just needs calories. And that's why I really like the approach of, okay, you eat fruit as much as you need, every hour, every 2 hours. And it's also important to understand that our brain is running on glucose and mineral salts. And if you don't give your brain the glucose, the adrenal glands need to produce adrenaline to keep you going. That's why it's so important for women to really have frequently meals and to have the best fat-free meals and eat a lot of fruit and just take care of the adrenal glands and not really intermittent fast, in my opinion.
I would also say that the healthier you are, the cleaner your body is, the more fasting that you've done, the more purging you've done of the old toxicity, the more you can intermittent fast and not have it be disruptive to your health. And that goes across the board for pretty much all health issues. The less toxicity you have, the more optimized your digestion is, the less you will need to eat. So somebody who's quite toxic, might not have the best digestion or absorption of calories or, nutritional intake through fruits and vegetables. You might have to eat a lot more. And so people think that they can get away with intermittent fasting, but in reality, their digestion is just not that great. And so they need more time to eat more calories, Yeah.
I think, in my opinion, also intermittent fasting can lead to a lot of binge eating. So with the clients I work with, like I have a lot of people with eating disorder I work with, and binge eating is a big issue because basically you train yourself to eat a lot, and it's just, you can also, like when you don't have great coping mechanism with your emotion, you can just, stuff yourself to not feel anything. And that's also why I don't really like bigger meals for women especially, and also like for your emotions, because it's not really good to cope with your food, with your emotions.
Yeah, thank you. And before I leave it for the questions of the public, I'd love to ask a little bit about, like, these two guys, you've been agreeing too much, so I'll throw in there that...
I can create some disagreement if you want.
Yeah, well, one that comes to mind is about when you fast, you want to keep it like super clean in the way that, so in the Lauren Lockman way, which I think you're more following, Jeff, is obviously you wouldn't want to add any kind of nutrient like a herbal tea, and you also want to rest as much as possible, right? When I was talking with Tyler, I understand in your fasting center you have a little bit of flexibility, and also you're not trying to make it as boring as possible. Like quite the opposite. There's a lot of activities that you can do. Well, I remember when I did also 14 days more Lauren Lockman school, trying to do as little as possible to rest the body. But then it's really like, just do nothing. So I know there's maybe a little difference there between you two. But before you start about it, I'd love to ask Laetitia, because I feel you've been speaking a little bit less about it. What is the way you generally recommend people to fast? Is it to be a little bit active or more to rest as much as possible? Is it okay to have herbal teas? Do you do enemas also, which I feel might be a difference between the two?
Yeah, I think hydrocolon therapy once is good, but I would not recommend doing enemas daily. I think that's too much. In my opinion, I don't like the approach of doing nothing and just laying around, because I think the body just I think it's hard enough to not do anything, because we're all very productive in this world and we like to do stuff. And doing nothing and sitting around and meditating, that's a task on its own. And then you want to do not eating on top. So I think choose one. So either you really want to meditate and eat a little bit, or you really want to go, okay, I want to fast, but I love massaging. I love a little bit infrared sauna, like 10 minutes a day to have a light sweat. I love to rebound when I fast, just to really help the body to eliminate more. Because when I do this, for example, I don't have a white tongue. When I don't do these things, I have a white tongue during fasting, and that tells me my body is not really detoxing great. And when I help my body with like a little bit of walking, with rebounding, with just massage, and it's just really, really helpful. And you also you smell less, because obviously when you do a water fast, you start to smell. And if you do these little things, you really help your body with elimination. Yeah.
So my approach to life, which fasting falls into that category, is what if we can observe in nature, in every category, what would the most optimal thing be? What would other animals do? What would we probably do in the wild if we were to just go off basic instinct and we were to not have anything get in the way of that basic instinctual understanding? And when it comes to fasting, the way I think about it is, for one, we should ask, why are we fasting? Most people are fasting because they want to get healthier, they want to detoxify, they want to eliminate old diet and get their skin better, lose some weight, be more clear-headed. And so the first goal is to detoxify. I think we could probably all agree on that. And so there's, like you said, fast, faster, fasting. In that approach of detoxification, there are different speeds at which your body can detoxify. In my opinion, if you're trying to heal yourself or get your body cleaner, the fastest way to do that would be to do nothing, because this is what all the other animals in nature that I'm aware of at least do when they're sick, is that they just lay there until they're not. And so when you conserve energy, when you stop rebounding, when you stop going for a walk, when you stop talking, when you stop watching adventure movies that really stimulate you, every day I've done a 10-day Netflix fast, and I was extremely wired the whole time, and I detoxified much less. When you have something like candida coming out or toxicity coming out of your tongue that it shows up in a white coating on day 10 of a fast, because you weren't doing anything, that's a good thing. You want this stuff to come out. You don't want to not feel, you don't want to stop feeling bad. Feeling bad if you're going through a fast means your body's detoxifying. The goal is to detoxify, not to feel good. And so in my opinion, there can be a happy medium. You can do certain therapies. You can jump in a cold plunge. You can go for a walk. You can do a little yoga or a little exercise, but it's going to take away from detoxifying. I'm the type of person that I just want to go balls to the wall. I want to get this poison out of me as fast as humanly possible. And so I'm going to lay there in pain and misery for 10, 20, 21 days and just know that this is eventually going to end and I can go for a walk when I'm done. Because the whole point in me doing this fast isn't so I can exercise, it's so I can detoxify. I do also see a lot of people who aren't quite ready for that approach. So there's the fastest way, and then there's the not so fastest way. And so then you watch a little TV, you might talk a lot, you do some puzzles, go for a little walk, do some stretching, do an infrared sauna. In my opinion, anything besides just sipping water and resting is going to hinder in some way, whether it be a lot or a little, the process of detoxifying. Because I've tried a lot of these things on myself. I've done 1 to 4 medium length fasts for the past 6-7 years, and I've tried a lot of things. And what I've found is that when I'm going through some symptoms, it's when I'm doing nothing. And usually if I'm able to sit with those symptoms and relax and be present and focus on love and the rebalancing of my constitution, then I'm able to get through these days. And I feel light years better than I do after the fast than I did if I were to be busy, always being active and talking. A lot of talk, a lot of energy is taken out of your body when you're talking during a fast. I've seen a lot of people do a completely silent 10-day fast, and their experience was remarkable. So I think you've probably also heard of people trying to team up doing a Vipassana with a water fast. And that is probably, yeah, Amber, that is a very deep approach. And why is that so deep? It's because our body is going into such a deep hibernation mode. It's conserving all the energy to detoxify and to heal instead of talking and being distracted from the mission, which is to regenerate yourself. And so some people might not be ready for that. Some people might need to slow walk it in from a juice cleanse to a water fast while, being a little bit active. But if we're solely focused on healing chronic disease, I personally think that not taking herbs, not overstimulating yourself, not having too much conversation, just sitting there and resting is a really great approach, in my opinion. Yeah.
Awesome. And I just want to say that I generally agree, and I reserve the right to be wrong. Okay? I don't believe I have all the answers. And there's definitely approaches where you need to just completely rest, relax, allow the body's energy to heal itself. And I'll share some other experiences. I had this woman, Carly Axford, who is a chiropractor, and she came to do my fasting programs with my clients, and she had chiropractic clinics all over Bali. And when she specifically worked on my clients, she's like, "Oh my God, Tyler, I only want to work for you." She literally quit doing chiropractic herself, and she would only come to my programs 3 times a year to work on my clients. As she said, is because when somebody has a scoliosis or a major problem, normally what takes me 6 to 8 months of consistently working with somebody, I'm seeing it move in days. Because the body becomes so supple and open, I can adjust and move and inform. And she was doing network chiro, like energetic stuff, some physical movements and things. And she's like, the amount of movement that we can create in such a short period of time is magical. So for me, there are sometimes modalities that can assist the fasting process. Chiro from like Cairo, Egypt, chiropractic is one of the original physicians that could look at the alignment of the body. Some people agree, some people don't. There's osteopathic that works with the muscles and the fascia, which I think is also beautiful. But in general, I know there's a school of thought that believes if I'm really fucking suffering, and that means I'm getting something done. And I'm with you in the sense that the things that I've done in my life that are the hardest, I've grown the most. So I'm one of those individuals that's like, yeah, you need to sit in it. You caused this. And I've been through that. Like, I ate the foods, I smoked the cigarettes, I drank the alcohol, I went through the detox, I suffered. And so I get that. And then there's also, well, if we have these 4 channels of elimination, defecation, urination, perspiration, respiration, there's a level of wisdom of being able to support the removal of heavy metals, the removal of the pesticides, the removal of the plastics, the removal of all the toxic plaque, amyloids in the brain and arterial plaque and all this stuff, which the fasting will do. But what if there are systems of the body that I can support that radically assist removing a lot of that acid buildup by doing something? Instead of just laying there and suffering and feeling every bit of toxicity the entire time, what if I could bring a colonic in and just wash everything out? My entire lymphatic system, in all of yours, every organ has a major lymphatic system network in every organ that drains into the colon. Your colon is the sewage system of the body. Okay? And when you have heart disease or a brain condition or liver disease, it's the lymph system that's trying to detoxify that organ into the colon, trying to drain all that toxic waste, and it can't. That's why there's a buildup of all these problems. So when I go to fast, if I do nothing, eventually, because I'm a biological being, every cell of my body is trying to eliminate that waste and clear it out, and it will without having to do anything. But if all this acid that's starting to drain through the lymph system into the colon is building up my colon, I feel like absolute hell. Can I put some water in there and just help wash it out? And then feel better temporarily while the next loads of acid from every organ of my body are dumping into there? Maybe it doesn't need to be every day. Maybe on some days where you're having more energy and feeling good, or the toxicity is coming up, you can be like, you know what, I'm so toxic, feeling so bad. What if I did do an enema? And what you'll discover is you immediately feel better. And that's because you're getting the acid out. So do you really have to sit there and suffer with the acid in, or can you support it coming out? How do I support it coming out? Drink enough water, number one. There's so many people, it's like go on a water fast and they're like, oh, well, how much water do I drink? And they're like, oh, well, just drink when you feel thirsty. I call bullshit. Because how many human beings have never drank water or never felt thirsty? We're not trained. We don't know. And for me, there's a certain amount of water based on your weight and based on what we see clinically. Pee on a strip every morning. There's a little thing that says SG, specific gravity. Are you chronically dehydrated or are you somewhat hydrated? And if you're chronically dehydrated, maybe I can include a little bit more water, maybe a little bit of electrolyte, or just a little bit of salt to actually get the water into the interstitial tissues, because it requires that. And I know, salt might be this bad, scary thing, but it's like, one of the main problems that can happen in fasting is hyponatremia, which is salt deficiency. I can prevent that. Just add a pinch. Take it with a pinch of salt. Salt is mentioned in the Bible more than anything else. It says literally everything you eat. It's called the salt covenant with God. Take it with a pinch of salt. It helps get the nutrients in. It helps the body to hydrate. I'm not saying to overdo it. And I know there's a lot of controversy in this conversation, but I've been doing this for a very long time. And I watch people, and when we give them a little bit of electrolyte, when we have them do an enema and clear things out, when we have them sweat every day, not in an infrared sauna, but in a full-blown hot rock, garlic, lavender, teas, sweating it out, I've seen metal. There's no other way I've seen metals coming out of people's faces. Day 14 on a water fast, this woman with leukemia had what looked like liquid metal coming out of her face because we're supporting the detoxification process. And then, yes, we get in the ice bath, 3 minutes in there, 3 minutes in hot, 3 minutes in ice, 3 minutes. And after this little process that we're doing, these people are just like, oh my God, we're standing in the grass, standing in the sun, taking it all in, just like, I felt like absolute garbage, but I woke up, I drank the right amount of water, I did a little bit of an enema, we did a little bit of movement, sound meditation, little bit of breath work, little bit of things together. Then we get down, do hot, cold therapy together every single day. This is what I was doing yesterday morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. This is what I do for a living. It's the most beautiful life you could ever possibly imagine, supporting people through the process. And you learn so much over the years how to adjust and make it, and maybe it's making it so that people, when they leave, they're like, that was the most amazing experience I've ever had. I've never done a fast, and I will do this now for the rest of my life. I will do this every year for the rest of my life, because the first experience they had was such a beautiful, profound, spiritual, mental, emotional experience. And with that, you heal. And I'm sure you guys are coaching people through mental, emotional, physical. So I know that's happening as well. But in this philosophy, I say, drink the right amount of water for the right amount of urination. It's the universal solvent that's cleaning acids and poisons. Distilled water, because it's grabbing poison. It's grabbing the poison out. Some people are like, don't drink distilled water. It's getting rid of all the minerals. Bullshit. It's pulling toxins. It's the most natural thing, you know? Water goes up, it rains down, that's distilled, put it in your body, allow that to be the universal solvent to clean you out, but you need to drink enough. And we can monitor. We can use a little urine strip and see, you know what, you're hydrated. And, you know, ultimately you could go by intuition too. Because if the person's kind of feeling good, well, maybe not intuition, you could probably go through observation, okay? Just so you know, you can test. Just hold out your hand. Okay, super hydrated. Pinch the little bit of skin on your hand and let it fall. And if it snaps right back, okay, generally you're hydrated. When you're really chronically dehydrated, that'll take a few seconds to go back down, or even up to a minute to go back down. So I'm all about adjusting hydration, sometimes adjusting minerals. One thing that you're probably aware of when people are doing ascended water fast, they might have heart palpitations, they might have irregular heartbeat, and they're just like, oh my God, what's going on? Probably a potassium deficiency, which is pretty rare, I'll be honest, pretty rare, hardly ever happens, but sometimes it does. And in that case, you should just have some electrolytes. Gives you the potassium. You got potassium, magnesium added to salt is basically what it is. And immediately it goes away. And then you can continue fasting, rather than it maybe being a problem and scaring you into stopping the fast. And there are some things that maybe you should stop a fast, and then there's lots of things that are just detoxification symptoms, and there's some things that you can actually correct in the moment. You know, and you got to be somewhat careful and know a little bit of the difference. Otherwise, it's just like, oh, you're just detoxing, keep going. Oh, don't be a wussy, just keep going. Oh, just keep going. It's like, well, you know, sometimes it can be very dangerous. So I'm all about defecation, urination, perspiration, respiration every day. Okay, and I know that's a bit controversial. And again, I reserve the right to be wrong. And when it comes to enemas, I tell people, if it's not feeling right, you don't like it, don't do it. Right? Let it rest a couple of days. Dr. Max Gerson in Mexico, not fasting people with cancer, but helping people to heal from cancer for decades after decades after decades. Coffee enemas all day, every day. Because it really stimulates the liver gallbladder to dump toxic waste. It increases glutathione, which is a natural antioxidant that supports the healing process. You feel a little bit better. And then the nutrients that he's overloading with, which is the carrot juice, the green juices, he did salads and soups and things like this. When you're doing the coffee enemas, it's helping the liver to process the nutrition and get some actual nutrition in, which maybe some people have not been able to do for a long time due to the liver problem. And everybody that's sick has a liver problem. Thank you.
That was a good rap, Tyler. Yeah.
I've only done that 6,000 times.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I would agree with a lot of that. You know, and I honestly do think the enemas are a pretty big part of a lot of people's journeys, and I mean, including mine. Some of you people know my journey specifically really well. I have a video on YouTube called "The Worst Night of My Life," which was on, I think, day 21 after I had broken a 19-day fast, when I had this impacted, hardened fecal matter, you know, just concrete brick from hell trying to come out. And it really only came out with the assistance of an enema, and it was brutal. But, you know, a lot of people don't really need enemas, but can they be helpful? Can some of these therapies that he mentioned, saunas and sweating and taking some electrolytes, can they help it? Yeah, sometimes, for sure. So for anyone to disregard everything, you know, would be silly. You obviously have a lot of experience with this. I'm always an open book, and I'm kind of at the beginning of my journey of guiding people through fast. I've probably guided around 100 people in the past 2 years. And what I do see is that not everybody needs the same thing, but to detoxify and then to stop the symptoms from happening, just in my own brain, I have a very hard time wrapping my head around stopping those symptoms. I don't want them to stop. And some people, to have a good experience, yeah, I could completely understand that if you want to leave this retreat with like, you know, a great overall experience and not have been through hell every day for the whole time. So it makes you come back and become a repeat customer. Yeah, there are some really bad days. Some people don't. This girl right here, 35 days, I would say 33 of them were like, how are you today, Bea? I'm great. I'm fine. You know, so some people have really good experiences. Obviously, the cleaner they are, streamlined for detoxifying. Strong mind, yeah. So everyone is different, and I think your business is probably pretty cool in the sense that it doesn't bring it. For some people, it's probably the most deep, transformative experience they've ever had, for sure. I know a lot of people that have come to you, and I think Jen has been there. Where's Jen? Yeah, right there. And there is something to say about doing some of these therapies to help assist. But then there's also the more hygienic approach would be to just rest and let the body take care of what needs to be done naturally. And in my opinion, I like to focus on that mostly. I have given some electrolytes to people a little bit here and there, and I personally do enemas when I fast about every 5 days, just so I never run into the worst night of my life again. Not that that would really happen because I haven't eaten potato chips in over 10 years, but for that aspect of it, I find that eliminating some of the bloating, eliminating some of the pain in the intestines, clearing some of that stuff out can be helpful. Yeah.
So just a caveat here, whenever people do come in, we let them know straight away, all of this is for you. This is not, you don't have to do this stuff. So we tell people straight away, like, if you're going through it, because everybody does at some point, or some people just go through it the whole time with just that little bit of slow and, you know, feeling it. So we'll basically say, if you're really in it, stay in bed. Don't come up this morning. Send us a little quick text. Hey, I'm just going to sleep in. Hey, I'm going to do this thing. So we are very clear that when people are feeling it, when their blood sugar is low, when they're going through the symptoms, obviously keep drinking the water, but take some time, rest. But generally we're like, hey, if you feel good, why not be a part of this group and get the mental, emotional, physical, like, cleansing? Because, you know, the biggest breakthroughs and where I've seen miracles happen in some cases is breath work. I had a guy, Damien, that had 4 or 5 centimeter brain tumor, and it was a place in his brain that was inoperable. Otherwise, he would have been paralyzed. This guy's in his 20s. He's taller than you, super ripped. He's a, what do you call him, Muay Thai fighter. So you got this tall, you know, picture of health looking guy, comes to the retreat, got this brain tumor in his 20s, and he's going through the water fast. He wants to do a 21-day water fast. He gets to, I can't remember, it was probably day 7 or 8. And we're down on the beach, and we facilitated a breathwork session. So all my clients are lying down, and they're, and we do this for 45 minutes to an hour. And I facilitate typically going up and talking and going through some stuff and clearing some stuff. But my teacher was there. His name's Michael Adamides. Lives on the Sunshine Coast. He's a psychologist, enlightened, little blonde-haired guy, amazing. And this guy's doing breath work, and sorry to go off too much on this, but he just goes into a seizure. So sometimes you have brain tumors, you'll have like grand mal seizures, and he was on Keppra. We took him off the medication. Typically, once you're in ketosis, no seizures will ever happen because it prevents the seizure process. But he's on like day 8 of a water fast, starts going into a seizure, and my teacher jumps on the guy, and he's like, "What are you feeling? What are you experiencing? Like, what's going on?" The guy's like, I'm like, oh my God, this guy's getting a seizure, and he's like yelling at him. Like, what are you feeling? Tell me what you're feeling. And the guy's like, I fucking hate my dad. And he's like, say it again. I fucking hate my dad. This guy's screaming it over and over and over. And then all of a sudden he breaks down crying and just like, oh my God. I love my father. So he had this massive awakening. And then he gets up and goes and jumps in the ocean, goes for a swim, and comes out of the ocean. His eyes are bright. I'm looking at this tall, ripped, freaking 20-year-old just like, I'm healed. And I'm just like, okay. But you still got like 13 days of the water fast left. And he's like, no, I'm done. I got what I came for. And I'm like, you're the boss. I'm not paying you, you're paying me. So he started on to juices. And he went home and he had a scan. He had an 86% reduction in his tumor within a 2-month period. Epic. So why did I tell that story? Because, sometimes using some energy for more than just, there's more mental, emotional, physical, maybe. And then it was his uncle, Dan Gardner, that I told on the podcast that had the liver tumor. That's what turned him on to it. But yeah, I think incorporating other modalities during a fast, I think is really good because I think I believe every modality that actually work and is good is way better when you're water fasting. I just believe that. So we have hyperbaric oxygen chambers, loading people up with oxygen. We got red light. We got different forms of meditation. We do breath work. We only do it once a week. And I do have to admit, when people are on 14 days, 20 days and doing breath work, it's, sometimes full on. And sometimes I wonder if they're not going to pass away during the process. Never said that out loud, but they get through it. And if we feel they're not up to it, we don't let them do it either. But yeah, it's two different philosophies. And like I said, I reserve the right to be wrong and it could be correct as well.
Yeah, I would also like to mention something when it comes to cold plunge and also like very hot saunas. So basically, also, for example, when you drink a Red Bull or a coffee, you feel really good because the adrenaline is in your body and then you feel, oh my God, I feel amazing, have a lot of concentration. And the same happens when you do a cold plunge or when you do like a very cold shower in the morning, you get like an adrenaline rush. And then you feel incredibly good. But it's not necessary always, only because you feel good, it's not always amazing for your body, especially not when you have chronic health symptoms, in my experience with my clients. So I would always be careful with these amazing adrenaline rushes. Also, like, I don't know if you jump off a cliff and like you also get that high. But you need to be careful a bit with these things because even though you can feel amazing, it can be also very hard on the adrenals again.
Maybe I can respond a little bit to that. Sorry, taking this thing. I go back to Hippocrates. So Hippocrates used hot-cold therapy called contrast therapy in the treatment of disease as well. And I would agree that the first time you get into an ice bath, it's a shock and there's probably a massive amount of adrenaline pumping through. I do think that it's okay sometimes to have a big shot of adrenaline and then let it reset a bit. But I will say that ours specifically is not ice. I know a lot of people have ego and want to only sit in the really painful iceful experience. Ours is around 8 to 10 degrees. But just the observation is people going into the ice bath aren't like super adrenalized and freaked out. They're actually becoming very calm and breathing very quickly. And, on top of that, we have to look at what's the actual treatment for. So when you go into a sauna, you're getting really hot. Your body's pushing out a lot of toxins. This is scientifically proven. You're removing plastics, microplastics. You're removing lots of toxins, and I know you're for that as well. When it comes to the ice, you're reducing inflammation and you're essentially pumping the lymph system. So we get this expansion of blood to all the extremities, moving the blood to the extremities, moving a lot of the toxins that are building up. And then when you get into the ice, it's moving the blood to the core. It's reducing inflammation, and sometimes that shock is actually sparking the immune system to work effectively. This is according to research. So what's happening is your blood shunting. Blood is going to the extremities, then it's going to the core. Then it's going to the extremities, then it's going to the core. When people have issues in all the different organs, a lot of times they're not receiving either the circulatory flow or their lymphatic system is congested, not allowing those toxins to be removed. So when you have this consistent contrast, it's pushing blood in and out of organs to detoxify and maybe deliver nutrients. And you're also kind of pushing the lymph, because every cell of your body is detoxing when we're fasting. All these acids are coming out. So getting into that is pushing the lymph. Where is the lymph going? It's all going to what's called the cisterna chyli, just behind your belly button. This is why they'll always massage towards your belly button, or skin brushing or gua sha towards your belly button. So I believe that part of it can move a lot of the toxins where they need to go, so that when you then use the toilet naturally or by other means, you can get rid of more.
Yeah, these are all valid things that can be done during a fast. I would like to throw in a wrench to this and challenge both of you guys just a little bit, because I like to stir some shit up. I would like us all to think about who here has done a fast. Raise your hand for more than a day or so. Who here has done a fast for more than 10 days? 20? 30? Okay. So yeah, if you think about when you fast, during the 24-hour period that you have during that day, when do you think is the time that your body is detoxifying the most? When I think about that, when I remember when my body was detoxifying the most, it was when I was sleeping. Why? Because we were resting. Why? Because our body knew intelligently that it needed to shut this off. When we try to use this, when we try to outsmart God, we're actually being dumb. I'm not saying any of these theories are dumb. I'm just kind of tossing in some different opinions here. But I think when we conserve all the energy and you rest with your eyes closed, if you can take your brain trying to biohack, trying to outsmart the creation of this perfect design that knows how to detoxify and repair itself without even using your brain, aka you fall asleep, and the whole mechanism just kicks back into auto mode of repairing and regenerating. Who here has seen the movie Avatar? That's like one of my favorite movies, because I have this fantasy that when you say I got my arm cut off in this new world or whatever, we could just go into this cubicle, this little tiny capsule, and just go to sleep. And then we'd wake up 30 days later with a new arm in this perfect body. But basically we shut off our brain, and our sleeping mode, our repair mode, our fully rested mode just takes over. And so I think to just like go from the approach of trying all these hacks, these hot and cold plunge and taking supplements and just doing all these things that we think we're inventing, when we actually stop all of that. I'm not saying I know everything. I probably know nothing compared to the intelligence of God. But when we stop everything, we go to sleep, that's when our body detoxifies the most. And so that's what I try to do in my approach, which I do, I go for a walk, do a little yoga if I'm feeling like it. But I recognize that if I'm really wanting to get the poisons out, which is usually the thing that's causing people's problems the most, hindering that great flow of energy, the blood flow, the lymphatic flow, we don't need skin brushing. We don't need to even do yoga or stretching or rebounded. We need nothing but complete rest. And when the poison is extracted, you wake up, you break the fast, you feel a lot better. And on the days when I have been detoxifying the most, when I'm resting, that's when I feel the worst. And in my opinion, I know nobody wants to sit through that. That's why nobody wants to do a fast. That's why nobody wants to really go through this beautiful, transformation, because it can be hard. And the hardest days are really the ones where you're experiencing the most symptoms. And I have seen many people not drinking enough water feel great. And then when they start drinking more water, say they're going from 1.5 liters to 4, which to me would almost be a minimum for most people, then they start to have lots of symptoms. And they're like, oh my God, what's happening to me? I feel like shit. I'm like, you're finally starting to detoxify. Congratulations, you're closer to the goal. And so thinking that we can outsmart nature, to me, we should really just step back a second and question that, to try to biohack our way out of this. Yes, there is a time and place to do certain things. Enemas are amazing. Hot and cold plunge could be great too. Massages, they all have their time and place, I think. But at the end of the day, I think when we shut off our brain and we stop trying to overthink and think that we're smarter than the natural design, that's when we start pulling away from detoxifying and really regenerating. That's just my honest opinion. I've also seen a lot of people get just amazing results just closing their eyes when the solution and the story that you gave about that breathwork story, which is really beautiful. I've also seen similar things. I fasted a guy for 20 days, day 1 through I think 15. He was not willing to be present with himself on his iPhone all day. I think he was maybe 30. And part of this process isn't just physical detoxification. It's also healing your emotions, healing your mental state, and some of the trauma that you had with your parents and friends and any situation that you might still be holding on to. If you're not present with yourself, if you're not able to sit there and meditate on it and just allow it to be so you can learn it and understand it, so then you can eventually dissolve it, then you're not going to unlock that. And I saw this guy go through such kind of a difficult fast for the first like 14, 15 days. He was on his phone just watching surf videos and YouTube and Netflix 24/7, barely slept 3-4 hours a night. And then I was like, dude, you've only got like 5 or 6 days left. You're going to break your fast around day 21, 22. I recommend just giving me your phone and just closing your eyes for the next day. And around day 17, he gave me his phone, spent the whole day laying in bed with his eyes closed. And he was a very macho guy, man's man, didn't really show his emotions too much, which, that's fine. But I could tell that there was something just tight. There was something tight in him that needed to just break free and become loose and just let it go. And he wasn't going to let that go if he was just watching YouTube videos. And so he spent 24 hours with himself. And I saw him on the morning of day 18 at like 7:30 in the morning. And I'm like starting to even get emotional because when I saw him, he was bawling. He spent almost 24 hours just like uncovering his anger with his dad. And the morning when he woke up, he had just this huge realization, and it's almost just like he just broke. He needed to be broken, and he broke because he spent 24 hours with himself. And I sat there with him for hours. We just cried and cried, and he had such an emotional release. And after that fast, he was much different, and he had just a lot more grounding and love in him that was shining brighter. And so there might be one way to do it, which is through breath exercises, and the other way might to be just meditate or just to give yourself some silence. It happens naturally for some people. Some people you can wiggle it out by doing certain things, but in this case, I thought that was a really beautiful thing, and I see that a lot in myself too. When I spend a lot of time distracting myself, I'm not learning, and I'm not really letting go of things that might need to be let go of, and so. Fast from distractions, yeah. There's a lot of different ways to fast, and sometimes when you do a water fast or this deep, period of transformation, it's okay to distract yourself a little bit. You might not in that moment be able to go that deep, so you might need to go for a walk. You might need to do a 10-day Netflix fast like I did. It was necessary. I had done like 4 long fasts before that, just hardcore, basically laying down and like closing my eyes thinking I'm going to turn into Jesus when I wake up. And I wake up, I'm still Jeff. Pretty similar. But I find that, if you're on your fasting journey, you're going to have a lot of ups and downs. You're going to take pieces of this and pieces of that, find out what works for you, find out what doesn't. And all of it is great. And I would say that none of us know anything compared to the divine intelligence. Compared to people who know nothing about fasting, yeah, you have a lot of information. You have a lot of information, and we should all soak it up and just try. I think a lot of people don't even try because they don't even know where to start, and so it's good to hear all your guys' opinions. Thank you. Namaste, Raw.
Yeah, nothing to add. Yeah, and just before I ask questions, so I have one little more I'm curious about, which is opinion, and we can make it not too long, but opinion on dry fasting. You start.
I don't think dry fasting is good because it's also very hard on the adrenals, because the adrenal glands need to pump adrenal to push out the toxins that are in your bloodstream. And with water is really helping to push out the toxins, but if you have nothing, then the adrenal glands are just overworking all the time and trying to push everything out with adrenaline, and that's very, very, very hard on your system, and I would not recommend it at all.
That's a good question. I think there is a time and place for dry fasting. But here's the thing: is I don't think most people are even close to being ready for that. I'm gonna leave you guys with something to think about, which a lot of you've probably heard. The solution to pollution is dilution. If you have all this toxicity in your body, you gotta flush it out. You can get some of your water from your oxygen. You know, there's also unexplainable things in the energy fields that surround us that we don't really know about, that we can probably pull some water from. But I would say that for the average person, I'm pretty into reading blood pressure when people are fasting, and from the spread difference between the top and bottom number. You know, a lot of people don't talk about this, but I can see when somebody needs a little bit more water or they're a little bit dehydrated. You give them a half a liter more, their blood pressure spread becomes, you know, better, more normalized. What's that? 40. Yeah. And so I think if you're somebody who's gone through 10 to 20 long water fasts, your skin is very clean and clear, your eyes are clean and clear, and you have, you know, great health, then you could probably get some benefits from dry fasting. I think for the average person, every once in a while, if your body is not craving water for 24 hours, then maybe that's essential. But an extended dry fast for the average person, I think, is extremely harmful, very dangerous, quite unintelligent, because we have the statistics through, you've probably collected a lot of data too, through people who've ran a lot of water fasts. You can see when people need to drink water. And so there is this theory that for every 1 day you dry fast, you speed up the process that would be equivalent of like 3 or 4 days of water fasting. And I would challenge that by saying you're actually dehydrating yourself more. You're suppressing the symptoms of detoxifying. And in many ways, you're, stopping your body's ability to detoxify. Because again, when we drink water during a fast, that water is used to make blood and to make lymphatic fluid that needs to be utilized to detoxify some of these poisons and contaminants out of us. Imagine trying to run your car with just a little tiny bit of oil going through the engine. When it needs 6 quarts, it's only got 1. The resistance there is high, and eventually it's going to cause some abrasions. We've probably heard of a lot of, long-term raw vegans in the last few years of dying from doing dry fasting. And I think that, as much as I love certain leaders in the movement who recommend dry fasting, I will mention Dr. Morse, because a lot of people have heard him say that, if you need to break your kidneys loose, dry fast. If you need to see, extreme concentration in your urine output, do a dry fast. But in my opinion, you're just seeing concentrated, dehydrated urine. When you dilute it more, you're not going to see as much contaminants as you would if you were drinking nothing. And so the more hydrated you get, the more hydrating food you eat, the more you fast, the cleaner you get. I think the more benefits you could get from not needing as much water, but to actually take yourself through a self-induced dry fast when you need water is really dumb and dangerous, in my opinion. Yeah.
Cool. Generally agree. I think there's always some truth when people like Dr. Morse share things. I do think that short amounts of dry fasting will initiate the kidneys to be able to filter better. There are times when I got the people on the water fast, I'm all about getting them to drink enough fluids as that universal solvent. But I think it's intuitional, but also based on what I'm seeing, that sometimes they're just not filtering or something's just off. So I'll recommend they stop drinking water by 6 p.m. A lot of times people are also up peeing all night long and they can't sleep. So I say, well, get all your water in by 6 p.m., stop drinking water. And I know I say take a little bit of salt because it'll help you retain a little bit of the water you have. I know. No! Don't stone me. Just kidding. And it helps them to get through the entire night without getting up and peeing all the time so they can actually sleep. As we both said, like sleeping probably is when you're detoxing the most. When you get into deep sleep, we have something called the lymphatic system in the brain that starts to open up and detox the inner parts of the brain. And you don't get that brain detox unless you get into deep sleep. And when you fast, sleep becomes a problem. And I would agree with the not distracting, because the biggest breakthroughs I've ever had is when I wasn't distracting myself and I go into a self-review. I see all my relationships, marriage, kids, when I was a kid, and I realize how much of a dickhead I've been. And usually just end up crying, and really healing myself through the insights. So when it comes to dry fasting specifically, we typically will recommend about 12 to 14 hours. My main thing is we should probably learn how to crawl before we walk, learn how to walk before you run, and learn how to run really well before you sprint. Otherwise, if you just go try to sprint, you might actually injure yourself. And I would say the dry fasting sprinting, I think unless you are called by our divine creator to do a dry fast, you probably shouldn't. But if you are called and it's a spiritual thing, then I believe that energy will hold you in something like a dry fast. The body makes water when we're dry fasting. My teacher, Michael Adamides, did a 10-day process. It's a Native American process where they would draw a square out in nature with nothing else there, just in nature. And they had, I think, 6 or 7 people on his specific retreat. And you had to stay in the square out in nature for 10 days with nothing. And he was such a powerful mind person, constantly removing the belief he's going to die, constantly removing all these things, that he stayed there. He did 10 days of dry, never having done any type of fasting at all. He got through it. And he said by the end of the second day, he was just super thick, honey-looking urine. But by about day 4, he would literally urinate about a liter, like a regular pee, not even dark, 2 to 3 times a day. So scientifically, we do make water internally. There are potentially processes for living in dry, which is a huge rabbit hole that we could go down. But I think in general, when we're looking to heal ourselves, we should probably just park that and focus on fast, faster, fastest.
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of that. It's also, there are some people that have claimed to be breatharian or living on prana or oxygen who went from pretty conventional to dry fasting pretty quickly. And so there are some like unexplainable people out there that have kind of skipped the water fasting that we haven't really studied enough yet. So I would agree that maybe we focus on hydration before we just go straight into just dry fasting. For another big reason too, who here has heard of mucoid plaque? I don't know if it's real or what you would call it. Some people call it mucoid plaque. I call it just hardened material that's lining your intestines. There's kind of a debate going on between people in the raw world right now. But I think that when you dry fast and you have this stuff in there, you're not helping it in any way come out. And something that has dramatically changed my life, because I had the worst of the worst digestion, probably worse than anybody I've ever worked with or met. And during my first couple long fasts, I just saw such old stuff come out that when I hear of people that I have fasted, I just fasted a guy for 28 days a few months ago. And around day 20, he just started getting super bloated, especially in the later part of the day as he were to drink more water. Usually he'd wake up feeling pretty good. Why? Because he was dry fasting overnight. He was dehydrating that giant hard sponge. And as you start to hydrate it throughout the day, you get 3, 4, 5, 6 liters. That thing starts to bulk up. It starts to create gas. It starts to ferment a bit more and starts to, in my opinion, starts to move down into the colon because it wants to come out. And so you can see when you're dehydrated, if you drink water on a water fast and you've got bloating and you're seeing this stuff come out, you probably shouldn't be dry fasting. You need water to remove this stuff. Once you get past this phase and you get your body clean and hydrated, then I think it might be okay to start looking into. Yeah.
Yeah, I think dry fasting also, when you really breatharianism, that you just breathe and live off that, I think maybe monks can do it, and I don't know, really enlightened people. But I think a lot of people are not there yet, and a lot of people need to start very easy with fasting, because you know, a lot of people eat shit for 30 years. They eat very unhealthy, and we have so many toxins, heavy metals, and we cannot live on air at the moment. So I think it's very dangerous to do it, and I would not recommend it.
I'd also like to say that if we look at people, you can even look at, I've seen monks up close a lot, and a lot of them look really dehydrated. And so they might be living on a lot of prana, but they also might be severely dehydrated because they're not drinking enough water. And so, you know, you've probably seen a lot of people fast. I've seen a lot of people fast too. And the people who are, you know, I'm 41, a lot of people that are in their 40s or 50s, you can see that they've done a lot of water fasting. You can see it in their eyes. You can see it in their skin. They have great skin. They don't have many wrinkles. And so I think there is something that is really important about the amount of water that we drink. And there is a lot of clinical research that shows that, you know, we do need quite a bit of water. And from my experience supervising people, you know, averaging 23-ish days on a fast, the longer your fast progresses, the more water you need. I just fasted somebody for 33 days, and by the end of their fast, they needed 9 liters of water a day. And to me, I wasn't getting nervous because he was fine, but I was like, you know, if we were to push this too much further, if you were to drink that much water, I was a little nervous for the electrolyte issue, but he was fine. He broke his fast, recovered well. And at the start of his fast, he was trying to be intuitive with it. I was like, dude, you're dehydrated. You're not drinking enough water. And around day 15, 16, 17, he was like, I can understand now. I understand that when I wake up, I'm dehydrated, and then my body's just craving water. And so if you fast yourself, you can play with this. You can see when you're not drinking enough water, your blood pressure spread is going to get smaller. You're going to be dehydrated. So, yeah. Got any words?
I just wanted to give some insights to what plaque is and where it comes from. Most people aren't aware of this. So, like I said, we have a lymphatic system. So everybody knows about the circulatory system, 30,000 miles circulation, we got blood. Then you have a lymphatic system, and there's 5 times more fluid in the lymph system. And there's microtubules from every organ of the body that's draining into the colon, like I said before. So individuals might have a colonic, and then, you know, they do an enema, or they do a couple enemas, or they do 100 enemas, and they're like, oh, now it's just water coming out. I'm completely clean. In fact, you could do a colonoscopy and look up into the colon, and it's perfectly clean. But even after that perfectly clean, somehow, from somewhere, and usually this is only in individuals who are actually fasting 25, 30, 40 days, only the longer times. And I have examples of people. I've had 3 young guys that came out to fast. I took them to Nusa Penida for a 40-day water fast. They're young, they're ripped, they look good. They did colon cleansing as preparation. They did their own 3-day fast as preparation. They came to Bali. They did another 4-day colon cleanse prior to the fast. I took them out for a 40-day program. And it wasn't until, and this is enemas every day. We do enemas every day. We do Tibetan rites. We go for walks. We do sun gazing. We do all kinds of meditations and stuff. It wasn't until they're into their 20s that the thickest, darkest, black, disgusting plaque started coming out. I've only had other individuals get that in less than the 20 to 30 days when they do major mental and emotional breakthroughs. I've had people on day 5 or 6 have a major breakthrough, and they run to the toilet and all this black, thick tar comes out. So, you know, we talk about, you know, what is this mucoid plaque? We all know plaque is real. You can have plaque of your arteries, cardiovascular plaque, everybody knows that. There's amyloid plaque that builds up in the brain that causes dementia, Parkinson's, lipofuscin plaque. There's all kinds of different plaque. Plaque is mainly caused by protein aggregates. The main cause of it's animal food that causes plaque. So where does all this plaque, if my colon's clean, how did all this tar come out? That's because it's these microtubules. Imagine that your whole lymphatic system, the reason we don't know anything about the lymphatic system is because it's a clear aqueous fluid. It's not like blood that you can see flowing. It's not until recently that scientists are now cutting people open or injecting dyes into the lymph system to try to see where it goes. In fact, it was only 5 years ago that they realized the lymphatic system doesn't end here. all the charts for all of time just showed the lymphatic system ending here, not even in the brain. And I'm like, you're crazy. Every organ, every cell of the body that's getting rid of acid has to have the lymphatic system to drain that acid, otherwise you die. So it has to be everywhere. So what's actually happening when you fast, either way, doing nothing or doing a lot, eventually the body will release these little microtubules from your liver or your heart or your brain or your spleen or your kidneys. Eventually it releases, and it releases that into the colon. And of course, if your colon's blocked, that's, Hippocrates said, all disease begins in the gut. Because when you have that buildup inside of, whether you call it plaque or not, you got, chicken tacos from 6 weeks ago at grandma's house just sitting there and it can't move because you don't have enough fiber. If that builds up in one little area of the colon, there's whole maps of the colon. You can actually see if that area is blocked, you'll end up having a liver problem. If this area gets blocked, you end up having a brain problem. And typically brain is transverse colon. That's where we're absorbing the minerals. They say as above, so below. If you're full of shit here and blocked, you're going to be full of shit up here, foggy and got all kinds of issues. So once we're cleaning, letting go, a lot of it's letting go. I let go, I let flow. I'm holding on to the trauma of my mother. I'm holding on to the trauma when I first went to school. I'm holding on to the trauma of the car accident. I'm holding on to fear. I'm holding on to all this stuff. When we finally actually release the trauma, I believe just the mental and emotional clearing can cause the release, fasting or not. But when we're fasting, there's a lot of actions that are happening, clearing it all out. And then, like I said, for me personally, and these guys are noticing, when we are assisting people through fasting, if we can remove all the distractions, it's the natural human state when you're fasting and feeling it all and not distracting yourself that we start to have images like, oh, divorce. Oh, he cheated, she cheated. Oh, these people did these things to me. And we start to review. We start to actually naturally go back and see what was going on. And for me, it's an objective truth. It's not my story. She did this, she did that, it's her fault. Every time a guy has a story, I tell my story because this is what she did to me. All of a sudden I'm fasting and I see the truth. Oh, I did this, I did that. I did all these things leading up to it. Oh my God. I was young, dumb, and full of something. And I was a dickhead. And then, we were both. I point my finger out there, there's 3 pointing back at me. So doing the work, and I actually do believe that even if you're not doing the mental and emotional work, eventually with fasting, you will release it and let it go. Or if sometimes it's good enough emotional work, you can let it go through that. You put the two together, and this, like I said, I believe every modality is radically enhanced when we're fasting. So if you can have some of that facilitated, and I'm sure you guys are doing that, guiding people through the mental, the emotional, getting them to remove the distractions, having the right environment. And that's one of the major benefits of doing nothing, because we're distracting people a lot, with all the things that we're doing, but then we're, going deep on emotions. But if you're doing nothing and fasting and sitting with it, I would agree that that's going to probably be when you go through the deepest, darkest stuff yourself, as long as you're willing to actually see it and do it. It's the most uncomfortable stuff. So plaque is all those little microtubules that are blocked. And keeping in mind, you could have 100 microtubules from your liver and maybe 60 to 70 of them are backed up with plaque. And so you have this liver condition. There's still some of it draining. And it's not the only system of detoxification. Defecation is number one. That's where most of the acid, and if you think about this is a good piece of logic. Your small intestine is alkaline in a healthy human being. Okay? How is that possible? We got a stomach and it's full of acid. How does it go from acid to alkaline? Because we have a gallbladder, bile salts that are alkaline, and we also produce bicarbonate of soda from the pancreas to alkalize what's in the small intestine. So if all this alkaline food for optimal digestion is in my small intestine, how is it becoming acid in the colon? Because it has to maintain an acid for the bacteria to grow, to break down and do all the things that the bacteria do. How does it become an acid? That's because every acid from all over your body is dumping into the colon. It's the only thing that makes sense. So if we can heal the colon, we can heal the liver, if we can let go, if we can fast, if we can get this plaque out, I believe that pretty much every person has it until they don't. And there's some videos. James Rosales, he was one of them. James Rosales, 40 days out on this island, right? And he is so emaciated, and he's sitting there, and his eyes are perfectly white, and he's like the most awakened, enlightened person I've seen in a long time, and he's on video like, guys, do you want to drive a Volvo, or do you want a Ferrari? The amount of clarity and energy and vitality that I feel right here, right now is undescribable. He had the plaque come out. Loads of it, day after day. You know what happened on that same post? In Melbourne, mother, father, oh my God, Tyler Tolman's killing people. Look how skinny he is. He's going to die. Nobody could even hear what he was saying because of the way he looked. So much judgment. You know, and the statement there is like, Tyler, I don't want to lose weight. I can't lose any more weight. Well, what if you lost 5 kilos of cancer cells? Would you be okay with losing 5 kilos of cancer cells? Yeah. What if you lose 5 kilos of visceral fat? What if you're losing 5 kilos of parasites? Are you okay with that? So we really need to assess, especially so many people that are skinny and like, oh, you know what? I can't do a fast. I don't have any fat. It's like, no, you will only gain lean muscle mass and be healthy again when you get rid of everything that's in there that's no longer serving you. And sometimes that doesn't look good. When you're skin and bones, the only thing that's left is healthy tissue. And even I'll admit, I typically won't push people to that point when I probably should. Enough said.
That was great, Tyler. I would like to hit on being skinny and fasting just a little bit because I've got a lot of experience with this, and it was cool that you brought that up. I get a lot of questions of how skinny can you be to fast, how safe is it to fast when you're skinny? And just because it's such a thing that hits close to home, that I see a lot of people not thriving out there, unable to gain weight because they have this old gunk sitting in their gut, soaking up all their nutrition, blocking your body's ability to absorb anything you're eating. And I've seen people that, in kilograms, I don't know, I've seen people that were about 80 pounds do a 10-day fast, which, you know, if you were to go to a doctor, you'd be like, at 80 pounds, you're already dead. But I've seen people do a 10-day fast, barely lose any weight, rest the whole time. I think this girl lost 3 pounds and refed. Once she started to eat again, then she lost 10 pounds as she started to poop out all this old plaque. And she looked really skinny, but to somebody who's seen a lot of fasting people who are thin, she looked fine. She had a lot of vigor. She was vibrant. Her eyes were great. Her mental clarity was through the roof, and she was completely living again. And I've seen this really dramatically change a lot of people's lives who were stuck being skinny, unable to train in the gym or gain weight or gain muscle mass because they just needed 7 days to eliminate a little bit of chunk of plaque come out. You know, once you hydrate this stuff, I honestly think that the thinner you are, the faster this stuff will rehydrate. The quicker your body will go into these detoxifying modes. And it could be the turning point for a lot of people's health journeys. Mine was there. I was 112 pounds, which I was basically a stick for like almost 2 years. And during that time in my healing and my fasting journey, I was so happy to be this skinny. Not because I thought I looked good. I thought I looked horrible compared to the average person, but I knew that this would just be a stepping stone in my journey. And I wore it like a badge of honor because I was going through this crazy transformation that I knew was completely essential in order to start absorbing my food and be able to get back into the gym and be an athlete again. And so plaque, whether you call it mucoid plaque or hardened old waste, it's completely real. And in order to get it out, you need to hydrate it, in my opinion, and for people who I think there's been a lot of people throughout the past couple of years that have come here and asked me questions about fasting if they're too thin. And I'd say most people can do a 21-day fast even if they think they're too thin. I don't know if it's necessary for everyone to go that long if they're thin. Obviously, there's some nuance there and there's some questions to be asked. But for the average person, you can fast a lot longer than you think. And the rewards you'll get at the end of that period are substantial and dramatic and will completely change most people's lives in a very short amount of time. Yeah.
I would also mention the opposite, what also can happen, that you gain a lot of weight after fasting, especially also for women, especially for older women who fast and then they feel like amazing in their bodies, and then after that the water retention comes back and the weight comes back because the body's holding on to all that stuff. And also with emotional work, you can really work on that. I think emotional work is the most important thing while fasting because you can really get rid of all the stuff because you're holding on to old memories and old waste and just also a lot of trauma as well. But for women especially, it can be different when fasting. So I would say men are more tend to, okay, I want to get bigger and I want to gain the weight back. And for women, it can be the opposite. It can be that they want to lose weight and after a fast, they're just bouncing back into weight gain and then they fast again. And it's just a cycle of not losing weight.
Amazing. Thank you. And just so you know, it's 3 p.m., so it's the official end of the event. But if you're cool to keep going, I'm definitely not going to stop it there. You guys cool to keep going and take some questions? Yeah?
Sure, we could take some questions.
Amazing. Let's start here.
Thank you, guys. I was super inspired. I had a lot of answers from all of you. So every one of you said something really excellent. Very, very simple question. And that is that when we have parasites, which I fear that probably most of us here in Bali tend to have, especially if, like me, you don't really think about washing your veggies and stuff like that and your fruits. I've heard that when we fast, that drives them deeper into the cells. And so that's something which I would be curious about what to do if that's the situation. And then just saying about the 10 days I did, just to clarify, the 10 days I did on a Vipassana. That was like a decade ago. And it was a relaxed Vipassana where you could actually get up and walk around because the focus was not so much how do we just sit in meditation, but how are we meditating all the time. I get very lightheaded when I fast. So for me, it was fantastic environment, just completely quiet, no need to jump on my scooter, no need to talk to anybody. For me, it was fantastic. I did, but I can understand that there's many different situations. I feel that there's so many different bodies and situations. And one thing you were saying there in the end, that the emotional detox is so important when we're fasting. I think that the secret to health is emotional detox all the time, constant daily emotional detox. So I did a 3-day dry fast with Victor Truviano. Actually, when I came out of the 10 days of fasting at the Vipassana, the water fast, I didn't know anything about fasting. So I came out and I looked at food and my body did not want to eat a thing. Had I known at the time, I would have continued. I didn't know that we could be pranic also. I'm not saying that I would have gone there. But my mind told me I have to start eating again. But my body did not want to. It just wasn't interested. I did a 3-day dry fast with Victor Truviano, who, to the absolute best of my belief and feeling, has been pranic for a very, very long time. And you just look at him, and we did an 11-day workshop together with a bunch of people. And in the middle of that, it was just liquids. And in the middle of that, there was a 3-day dry fast. I did come out skin and bone. So I'm not saying that's something I would necessarily recommend, and I've got no idea if it was good for me or not. Obviously, my eyes were super bright afterwards, but as my daughter said, people's eyes are super bright just before they die also. So... and about the differences you have, about the different ways of doing it, like whether we're active or not, I think that Tyler is treating people who have very extreme situations and who probably need something quite forceful, and they're probably not used to meditating, so they probably don't have some of that connection which we're really blessed with, that we can sit there and be receiving, I would say, healing and detoxing just through our spiritual connection. And these people possibly don't have that, and therefore the breath work is, of course, amazing. So I think, of course, it really depends on each of us. We're all so different. And I love that, you know, you've all got your experiences and that you're here to guide people. And I just think that's amazing and awesome. And you're all great. Yeah.
Thank you, Amber. What a special person you are. Thank you so much. Yeah, but you had a question, yeah? Oh, I didn't see the question there. Go for it.
So your question in the beginning was, if you fast, do you drive parasites deeper? Okay. Do you want to?
No, you go.
All parasites will die before you. Okay. So parasites like to eat what they like to eat, and if they don't get it, they get upset. And then they release chemicals, and then you don't feel good, and you keep going anyway until they die. And then they come out. And you'll see them come out. I've seen them come out of a person's mouth, literally unwinding an entire live parasite. I've seen them come out of skin. I've seen them come out in the urine, recently actually. And we see them all the time with Colonics and Enemas. People send us photos all the time. So you are correct that most people do have parasites, not everyone. I want to give you the key to not have parasites once you've cleared them out. It's called transit time. If you have quality transit time, every time you eat, it only takes 48 to 72 hours to come out. The eggs don't have time to hatch and latch. So if you maintain a diet and movement and lifestyle where you eat food and it completely comes out within 3 days, you'll never have parasites again. And of course, the same diet that's making you have a good transit time and digestive system will alkalize the body. It'll build your immune system. We have eosinophils, basophils, neutrophils, monocytes, lymphocytes, T cells. Our immune system is designed to completely destroy parasites. And in fact, on a blood test, you can see when people have long-term parasites, because especially their eosinophils will be low. And doctors don't know this, nobody knows this, but that means the parasites have won, and that's why they're having an issue. If you have an infection, they'll be high. But I think, asking the questions, are we driving them deeper when we do a fast, is just, you shouldn't even explore that. Because it's ridiculous. It's like, well, the fasting by itself will remove all parasites, okay? And, I like to incorporate sometimes herbs for some people, clove, wormwood, green walnut, black walnut husk, whatever you want to call it, into a tincture and actually have them take it potentially while they're water fasting, especially if parasites are a known issue. And of course, you could incorporate it with everybody, and it would probably assist in the process of killing parasites. And I'll just reiterate, that's not necessary, especially for longer fasts. If you're just doing short fasts, you're probably not going to kill them off. But you could incorporate some things, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I had parasites, and then I did a water fast. It was, I think, in Sweden back in the time. And I had a really, really hard time fasting because of the parasites. So I had once where I slept 23 hours because of them. And I only went to, I think, 12 days and I didn't kill them. So because after I did the test and I still had them. So probably you need to go longer for parasites. But I also have more experience with, or better success rate with herbs and really killing them, because you need to make an environment that is very uncomfortable for them, that they will leave. And sometimes it can be even helpful to eat more vegetables than fruit to really starve them out of the glucose, because obviously, even if you fast them and then you drink fruit sugar, like you drink juices, you can feed them again. So that's why with parasites, it's really important to, just do the right things and really kill them. Yeah.
Who here has heard of the germ theory versus the terrain theory? Yeah, I think a lot of us have. there's a lot of talk going on in the health world of doing parasite cleanses and doing candida cleanses and killing worms, killing bacteria, removing the biofilms. In my opinion, you just do a fast. I'll keep it really simple. Keep it simple, stupid. When you remove the waste, you create a really healthy terrain that is impossible for parasites to even exist. So the cleaner your terrain is, the less candida, the less worms, the less parasites, the less fungus you'll have in total. If you try to outthink and be like, oh, I'm going to kill this type of parasite by taking this natural antibiotic, even if it's natural, what does antibiotic mean? It means anti-life. Is it only going to focus on that parasite, or is it going to cause damage in other sorts of ways? And I think we don't really need to kill anything. We just need to detoxify and create a vibrant, beautiful rainforest in our bloodstream that won't even be possible for parasites to exist. And so, as you said, will they go deeper? Yeah, they will go deeper into our colon, and after the fast, we will poop them out. And there's a lot of issues that parasites cause, but it's not the parasites that are causing the issues. They're there as a solution. The problem is toxicity and the buildup of that and the slow-moving river of lymph fluid and gunk in our blood and our lymph and our bodies and our tissues. And so once we remove that stuff with a 10-day fast, 20-day fast, I mean, if you do a 30-day water fast, parasites aren't going to be a part of your constitution anymore. All that stuff's going to come out. I don't know how long it takes for people that you've seen fast to remove that kind of stuff, but most people I've seen go over 20 days. They eliminate almost all of that symptomology of a parasite infection or candida overgrowth or a fungal. Yeah.
Just quickly, up north, if you go up north, there's trees growing everywhere. It's called clove. And if you go pick a clove, it literally looks like the head of a parasite. So I believe that nature provides solutions, and we can use, he said, keep it simple, stupid. I'd say keep it simple, smart. It's actually keeping it simple is the smart way to go about it. And this was called the doctrine of signatures, or signum natura. And foods represent the organs and the parts and the things of the body that they're good for. A tomato is actually good for the heart. And you'll find cut a tomato, it's got 4 chambers, it's got lycopene, it's good for the cardiovascular system. Watermelons, 98% water. Brain, surrounding fluid, 98% water. Celery looks like the bones, it's good for the bones. Kidney beans are the better protein for the kidneys, not the animal foods. And the list goes on. Melons are good also for our stomach, rock melon, honeydew, things like this. So we can observe nature and see things. And the locals up there, they put clove in everything every time they're eating because they know they're going to get parasites. Eating pig, the pig trachina worm is deadly. Like, it's probably the one thing you should never eat. But yeah, I mean, looking at nature, questioning things, sometimes Mother Nature has medicinals that can support us in the removal of parasites and other types of things. And naturopathic principles and herbologists for thousands of years have discovered these things. We don't have to discover it for ourselves. We can just look in a simple book. So I'm all about some herbology and things like that. And, for me, like, if your liver is suffering by doing a fast and you got so much toxicity and dealing with the excretions of parasites as they're dying while you're doing the water fast, potentially some dandelion tea, some milk thistle tea, something like this. It's non-caloric, it's non-sweetened, but can support the liver to detox. I think it, is potentially smart. But yeah.
My experience is also when you work on the emotional root cause of parasites, you can really help also to get rid of them, because where in your life are other people leading your life, and where do you have parasites in your life? That's also like a very, very important thing to make, because some people don't get parasites even though they eat the same foods as you do. That's a very important point to make.
Am I a parasite? Yes. Right? So this is the thing, like, we attract what we are, and this is what fasting has done for me as well. I had to ask myself the question, because this came up, like, if I got parasites, either I'm allowing parasites into my life. I need to assess all the relationships where people are just take, and as soon as I ask them, they're not actually giving back, it's a one-way street, that means I allow parasites in my life. And sometimes you need to either change the relationship so that somebody's providing an equal amount of energy back so it's no longer parasitic, or if they're not willing to do that, remove them from your life. And you have to deeply assess if you are the parasite as well. And absolutely, what I came to is I was a major parasite for most of my life to my own mother. I used to take money out of her purse. I used to take. She would give. I would take. All she wanted was a hug, and I wouldn't even hug her back. Because the first part of my life, when my dad left, she used me as the emotional blanket. And then I don't know what age it flipped, but eventually I was like, get off of me. And then I energetically would not even hug my own mother. And I had no awareness. She would come around, I'd just be like, get off of me, get off of me. Always giving, always loving. She fed me, she nurtured me. She did everything for me. Holy shit. I was in North Bali doing an extended fast when I had this realization. Yeah, I lost it. I lost it, realizing how much of a parasite and a dickhead I've been to my own mother, and thank God for that, because I changed immediately. I called my mother. I started calling her all the time. I told her she was the greatest mother. I loved her. I went and saw her. I flew her to Bali. I put her through my programs. I hugged her. I loved her, and I told her, and I did that for years before she passed away. Had I not done that, that's pain and suffering right there. So that's some big assessment. Am I a parasite, and who am I a parasite to? Because we're probably all somewhat being parasitic and allowing parasites as far as people into our lives. And how can I change it? How can I create a positive win-win energy exchange that's beautiful for both parties? And especially with our own partners. It's so easy to get caught up in our own shit with our own partners. The greatest growth in this human experience, the greatest growth you can ever go through is to be one-on-one with a partner, raise kids, and still be nice. Then you won't have parasites.
Yeah, rad. You want to do maybe one more question? Or call it here. We have a question in the back here. I got it, Alex. How you doing?
Good, thanks. I'm going to waffle. Question, has anyone, any of you three, worked with women in menopause? And if you have, what's the best way to avoid hormone replacement therapy? But, you know, what protocols are the best things to use? And with fasting, does it need to be different?
I've supervised a few women that were post, you know, from my experience, it doesn't matter what stage of life you're in. If you have nutrient deficiencies of any kind, whether you're pre or post menopause, what fasting does is it allows your body to eliminate what is causing that blockage and your body's ability to not be absorbing what you're eating. And so if you're needing to supplement with some sort of nutrient or vitamin or hormone, fix the root cause. And this, it doesn't matter if you're pre or post menopause. It doesn't matter if you're 6 years old or 14 or 65. I've seen several women that were in their 60s and 70s, including my own mom, who had major health issues of all sorts, taking tons of supplements, and then she went through a 28-day fast, perfect health, lost, 25 years, gained 25 years of her life back, lost 100 pounds in this crazy transformation, and no longer needed to take supplements, got everything she needed from the food. So to answer your question a little bit more broadly, fasting allows the body to regenerate and cleanse as a whole, regardless of the health issue. And so we will apply that to your question and say that if you go through this process, your body will correct whatever's wrong in the most simplest form, and if you fast long enough, if you fast the appropriate way, if you're drinking enough water, and if you refeed properly, if you go to a more living food diet, if you eat enough calories, if you eat enough nutrition, you'll be getting everything you need, so you won't need to worry about replacing anything with some sort of synthetic supplement. And I've also seen people that were post-menopause have a period again and have the ability to have children again. This woman was 47, and she had been in menopause for a couple of years, and she did a not even that long of a fast, 19-day fast. And then afterwards, she got pregnant, which was the whole goal. Her and her husband were both sick. I even saw photos of their eyes, and I was like, oh my God, I understand why you're not able to get pregnant, both of them. Unfortunately, the husband didn't go through this process. But after her 19-day transformation, about a year later, she got pregnant. And so it's just a lot of crazy things that happen. You gain youth when you do a water fast. You take off years, maybe even decades of your life, even in a 15, 20, 25-day water fast. And so aging isn't a natural process per se. You know, time doesn't make you age. What does make you age is degeneration, dehydration. And when we regenerate and rehydrate, we get youthful again. So if you're 47, you're experiencing old age, you do a 20 or 30-day water fast or even a 15-day water fast, and you might feel and look like you're 35 again. And you might experience the symptoms of a 35-year-old too, which is extreme vigor, sexual energy, and great hormonal accessibility. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. Scientifically, you're younger. All your markers of age drop. I would love to see Brian Johnson, the age guy on YouTube, go through, even a 20-day fast, which would put all of his supplementation to shame. And even though everybody know who I'm talking about, Brian Johnson, the guy who's into like hacking longevity, he's very popular right now, and he's doing all these things, which a lot of them he's doing right. Eating in a bit of a caloric deficit, eating in a intermittent fasting window, getting lots of sleep, exercising vigorously, doing a lot of cardio. But when a lot of things he's doing that I don't agree with is taking all these supplements, all these powders, and just things that I have no idea what they are. Taking peptides, and I think all of that, which costs a lot of money, if you just did a 20-day fast, you'd get 20 years younger, and it's free and it's natural and it's just built into our genetic code. So did that help at all?
Yeah, I'm just one little thing I'm curious about is the hormones, the progesterone and the estrogen and testosterone decreases. Does fasting help bring some of it back? Or?
Yes, 1,000%. I'll give you personal experience. I had hypogonadism, which is when your testicles shrink. You stop producing testosterone. A normal male testosterone, from what they say, should be between 400 and 800. At the time, I was 32. I'm 41 now. Mine was 90. My voice was much higher. I was turning into a woman. I wasn't identifying as a woman, but I was slowly becoming a woman just because my diet was killing me. I was eating a mostly meat-based diet, meat, eggs, milk, everything that mainstream science tells us is going to make our testosterone grow, but mine was shrinking. I was getting estrogen dominant. So I started jabbing testosterone needles in my butt just to replace that fakely. And through the past 9 years of fasting and a raw, vegan, mostly fruit-based diet, my testosterone is at 670. I feel like I'm 17 a lot of times. And so it's the process of de-aging. When you de-age, when you clear out the waste, your body rebalances your hormonal structure. And if that flow of energy allows your hormones to work again, your testosterone will build, or it will decrease. If you have too much, you can have too much.
Quick share. 3 days of a water fast is a minor endocrine reset, which will benefit. And you can do that once a month. In fact, ancient Egyptian cultures did 3 days every month on the new moon. A 10 to 14 day is a complete endocrine reset. That means that if you prepare yourself properly, you take care of yourself through the fast, you break it properly, you'll have a full reset. And then, like you said, if you get enough calories, you get enough nutrients, follow the type of diet these guys are teaching, you'll be perfectly healthy. No women should have menopausal symptoms. Those are symptoms of toxicity. Okay, and if you ate the healthy diet, you would never have that experience throughout your entire life. And many long-lived cultures don't have that experience. One thing that you can use is sweet potato. Sweet potato specifically has very specific things that will help hormone balancing, and there's multi-billion-dollar skin cream companies that just extract stuff out of sweet potato so that you can use it as a cream, and it actually works. the longest lived women on the planet in Okinawa, Japan, eat about 60% of their diet as sweet potatoes. So a couple things that you could add to your diet, doing the fast for the reset, and then, of course, the lifestyle.
Yeah, I would also say the lifestyle is the biggest thing, and also I would start with juice cleansing and not with water fasting, because you need to like adapt to it.
Yeah.
And I think teas can help you the most with the hormones, like raspberry leaf tea and also red clover tea is the best to really reset it and to really help. And in my opinion, that's often more helpful than a long water fast, because the hormones are so sensitive to everything you do, and they can also like shut completely down. And I also have clients who did water fasting and then the testosterone dropped completely and no libido at all anymore. So I think, it's a fine line.
I would say when your libido drops, it's because your body's going through something deep. I've seen that too personally. It's not a problem. Typically, it comes back up after your body's ready for that to return. Your body goes through such deep transformations that are necessary that you can't even comprehend exactly what's happening in the order that it's happening. I see a lot of people. I've fasted many women who have had breast cancer, and I've seen them really want to focus on that tumor in their breast leave. And it didn't happen. 10 days fasting, still stayed the same. 20 days, a year later, readdressed it. It was still there. And then they did a 25-day fast, and then it went away. You can't really put the focus on what you want to heal. You just have to surrender to the process and allow your body to repair and detoxify in the order that is important for your body's survival and longevity. And a lot of that hormonal shifting might be necessary. And once your body's ready, you will regrow hair. Your hormones will work again. You'll start producing an egg. Then your testosterone will rise. You'll have your sexual energy will come back. But it's if you're fasting, I personally don't believe that it's a negative thing. Just like other things, you're going into hibernation mode, and your body understands that completely. Yeah.
I am Rutger, and I just want to acknowledge one thing. First of all, that you did a great effort, I think, today by sharing all of your truths, and it was really inspiring, and sharing your passions. And also, it was so interesting to realize that usually an audience is looking for, what is good and what is bad, and what should I do and what should I not do, and rather instead of thinking for themselves, making up their minds themselves, like what makes sense for me, what doesn't make sense in my situation. And it was so amazing to watch that, to see that all three of you often started with a question, and then she started to answer her question, and then fully the opposite answer came from Jeff, and I'm like, wow, this is very interesting. And I couldn't disagree what on every of you were saying. So I think it really shows that every situation is different, and it really needs a lot of awareness to grow within yourself, to make your own choices in what happens inside. So it was beautiful. It couldn't be more. It couldn't be better, I think, in my opinion, to see how that happened, and then how Tyler said in the end something that was like in the middle, and he sort of fine-tuned it. So it was beautiful to see. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that feedback. That was awesome. Yeah, I agree. We had a lot of different personalities and different approaches. This was fun.
Were there more questions to start with? 1, 2,
Uh-oh.
3. Do we have time for that, or do we do a new event?
Let's do one more.
One more? Has to be the lady.
Okay, so I heard a lot of interesting things from you, a lot of insights. I have done water fasting, but I've mostly done juice fasting. So for me, it will definitely be interesting to do a longer water fast, because what I keep having is bloating during my juice fasts. Whenever I get back into eating, like the refeeding is very challenging. Then I go into OMAD, eating 1 meal a day. Now how I hear your explanations about that, about maybe not eating enough or eating too much in one go, like everything causes bloating. Then is it parasites? Is it, and I really lost the balance, and I lost trust in my body a little bit, though I know like my vessel is magical and I can do anything, but I just don't know the approach anymore. then people talk about the biofilm is damaged, and like I just don't know what to do anymore. I do lots of like emotional healing, breath work, all those things. How do I know how long do I water fast? You know, like what's the next step? How do you decide what is good? It's a lot of info and a lot of questions at once, but yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot of experience with digestive issues and bloating that completely wrecked my life in the best possible way for almost a decade. And it's funny, I had a call yesterday with somebody who had extreme SIBO. You know what SIBO is? Small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. And bloating is one of those things where I see it so prevalent in our community. I mean, everyone's bloated. I have a group of 11 friends that I grew up with who all eat conventionally. And when I ask them individually, like what their problems are in their 40s, nobody talks about it outwardly, but after I one-on-one them, they all are bloated in some sort of way with something that they're eating. And so it's very prevalent in our community too. And it's something that, in my opinion, takes a very long time to overcome if you keep eating. When I say keep eating, juicing is a complete food. You can live on juice forever. It has nothing to do with fasting, in my opinion. And so when you're doing a juice fast, I'm trying to do a juice fast to heal my digestion. You mean you're just eating fruits and vegetables and with one type of fiber removed? It's easier to digest, but you're not really healing. If you live on juice for a couple of years, you're not even detoxifying anymore. It's just your food, you know? And so from experience with so many people that have digestive issues, for your size, you know, your health, 20 to 25 days would almost guarantee a dramatic improvement, if not a complete reversal in your bloating. There can be many reasons why you're bloated, whether it's structural or bacterial imbalance or biofilm, parasites, you know, impacted microvilli. It really doesn't matter. But what fasting does, especially even with juicing, you're still putting some type of fiber down in there. When you remove all food, just like rubbing your arm, if you have a cut on it, you're still irritating it. So when you stop eating, especially if you're at a digestive tract, it just allows that thing to go into complete rest and repair mode and to reset your microbiome and to reset the microbes in there, to reduce the inflammation if it's inflamed. And so, you know, usually people won't see dramatic healing if you have a pretty severe digestive issue like Crohn's or colitis or something like that with anything less than like 25 days. 25 days would typically be the start of when you'd see something like that heal. But to see dramatic improvements, for sure, 15 days, 20 days, you know, digestion will get dramatically better. And so I've personally been on a gut healing journey for in my entire 30s, you know, basically. And what I found is that every time I do a fast, whether it's for 2 or 3 weeks, my digestion improves by at least 10%, which is life-changing. You know, I can eat things that I used to have to be very careful with. I'm zero bloated. I have perfect digestion. And I had stage 4 Crohn's disease, the worst SIBO out of anyone that I've ever met. Everybody said it would be impossible to keep this part of my intestines that was impacted. And so, in my opinion, fasting is the answer to all of these questions that are like, well, what about my digestion? What about my brain fog? What about my bad skin? It's like the answer is let your body rest. Stop the nutrition, stop the caloric intake, let your body do what it was designed to do, to rest, repair, and when you come back, you'll have a much higher level of digestion. Yeah.
Amazing answer. No. Water only. And there's some things that we could talk about with that. There's Professor Longo from the University of Southern California, who's done amazing research on fasting and cancer specifically, and he's developed something called the fasting mimicking diet, which means you can actually intake, let's say, like 500 calories, but still be in full ketosis, still get full autophagy. It's fasting mimicking diet. Of course, he's got his own package and program and all these things, but he's doing a lot of scientific research in the area specifically of fasting mimicking diet in conjunction with helping people to reverse cancer, but he's also using chemotherapy and things like that. And the fasting, what's interesting is after 3 days of a water fast, your entire body goes into a self-protection mode. Meaning, like they did these tests on mice and rats, they'd have a lethal dose of chemotherapy, meaning you could inject any rat and they just die within 24 hours. You put them on to a similar 72-hour fast, they inject them with the same lethal dose of poison, nothing happens. So that's pretty cool. But to bring it back, I love individuals who've been through the process. They've done it. They've had your exact same experience. And then you're coming with the experience. And it's like, that's what I'm all about. I train coaches around the world. I have something called an academy, iridology, sclerology, anatomy, and physiology. We look at herbology, mental, emotional, and we teach people how to do consultations, right? Become health coaches, essentially, or fasting coaches, things like this. Sinclair is one of them. So what I typically do, a woman comes to me and says, hey, I got stage 4 breast cancer, estrogen positive, whatever it is. I say, oh, my coach from the UK had the exact same breast cancer. She came and found us, went through the fasting process and healed. I think you should directly work with her because she had the breast cancer. She learned all of what I have. I'm sure she learned a lot more. She's actually been through it. She is the best person to guide you. The best piece of advice I can give you is find the person that resonates to your core and shut everything else out. Because the world is full, even with all us health people, we're all saying something different. Find the person you resonate with, commit 100% because you resonate, be willing to let go of all the things that you think you know, because it's one of the hardest ways to coach somebody. Oh, what about sugar? Oh, I heard fruit. It's just like, no, shut up. Shut your mouth. Do exactly what you're told because you don't know. If you did know, you wouldn't be sick. And I get this all the time. People come to me and they're like, Tyler, I'm perfectly healthy, but I've got this liver tumor. Can you help me? What do I tell them? No, I can't help you because you think you're perfectly healthy. They're like, if you can just help me get rid of the tumor, I'll be healthy because I'm perfectly healthy. No, you're sick, and you have to admit you're sick. You have to admit that you don't know. You have to have a level of humbleness and remove all, and you've probably done amazing research, and you looked into amazing things, and you've got amazing stuff, but you need to find the person, and I love the confidence. What he just said in the answer, I was like, if you don't sign up and do coaching with him and just follow it'll work. It'll work. That's it. Find somebody who's done it. Find someone who fully resonates with you. Let go of all the money and this and that and the other things and actually do what they say and show up and do it. And I'm pretty sure you'll have success. And I would love to see that. And I think everybody would love to see you heal and not have to deal with these issues.
Yes, I would also love to say something about that. I was also bloated for 7 years, and I can tell you from my experience, it's something that is very hard to get rid of because obviously something is going on. For me, I took antibiotics many times in my life, and that's why my gut was very messed up. I don't know how is it for you, but in general, it can be heavy metals in your gut. It can be worms, parasites. It can be also like so much stuff that is just not in balance. But you can heal it 100%, but it takes time. I would recommend short fast, water fast, and also do it regularly. You can do 1 water day a week and 1 juice day a week, to just help your body. And then obviously a longer one would be great, but don't overdo it because otherwise you go in the binge cycle and then you eat a lot and then you bloat it again, then you feel shit, or you think, oh, 1 fast will heal me. And then you do it 1 fast. And then after, you eat something and then you bloat it again. You'll be so frustrated. So that's why it will take time, but it's possible to heal.
Thank you, guys. That was good. I see a lot of people having issues of all sorts, and it's really cool that this community is here and that we can all come together and have these conversations and questions and answers. And I was thinking about this when I was driving here, just how appreciative I am of the Raw Temple, just kind of allowing us to have this base of a community in Bali. None of the other vegan or raw vegan restaurants are really doing this, so it's cool that you guys put these events on for us to kind of come together. And without a place, it's hard for us to all meet and gather and talk about these things. And it's cool that you guys are also making a YouTube channel and allowing us to spread this beyond just this room right here. So I want to thank you guys for joining us today and for listening to all of our drama and differences and similarities and rants. So I appreciate you, Laetitia and Tyler. You both have a lot of experience and knowledge, and thank you guys so much.
Amazing. And thank you so much to the three of you. We've gone over time by quite a lot, and you're still here, passionate, answering questions. So please, a big round of applause for Laetitia, Jeff, and Tyler. And yeah, we're blessed to have this community, to have many people coming and also sharing on YouTube. So if you feel also impacted by this conversation, let's share around the world. And thank you so much, guys, for coming. Much love, everyone.
Namaste, Raw.
Thank you for listening to Raw Talks. If you enjoy our conversations, make sure to subscribe and also to receive the notification. So hit the bell so you know when we share a new episode. We also want this platform to be a community, to be interactive. So please, if you have any questions, any comment, share in the comment section below and we'll read and answer to all these comments. And lastly, if you want to spread the movement, share with your friends and also like this video. Thank you.